June meeting of the, or July meeting, sorry about that, Georgetown-Scott County Planning Commission. If you plan on speaking tonight and have not signed in, would you please do so at this time? First item on the agenda is approval of June invoices. Take a motion and a second for that approval.
I'll make a motion for approval of the June invoices.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the June invoices. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, those are approved. Approval of the June 12th minutes of planning and zoning.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second for approval of June 12th minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. Approval of the July invoice, this month's, or agenda, I'm sorry. The July 10th agenda.
Any changes to it?
Chairman, the commission, we would like to add a segment for internship, for intern recognition, before we get into full business.
Okay. And if we're going to change the order of hearing these proposals, do we need to make that at this time or just change it?
I would recommend going and make the change now.
Okay, we're going to move PDP 2025-25 and PDP 2025-26, the colony concept amendment, up to the very first item on our agenda because they were here last month and shouldn't have to sit through the whole evening a second time. So we will move that up. Do we have any items that are consent eligible?
Under new state law, no, that would not really consent.
Okay. Approval of the agenda. I'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion for approval with the change in the order to move item E to the first item and to add the internship recognition.
Okay.
A second.
All right, I have a motion and a second for approval of this month's agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. Items for postponement or withdrawal, other than what's already been listed on the agenda. Is there anything else, anything new?
Chairman Mifflin, this afternoon we did receive a call and a written statement from the representative for the PADX application. They are postponing till next cycle as well.
Okay.
It's technically a ministerial application.
All right. Good enough.
Okay.
It's not on here, it's ministerial.
All right. Mr. Fleming, would you like to make your presentations at this time?
Get this presentation started, I would actually like to introduce you guys to Noah Smith. Noah Smith has been one of our interns this summer. Specifically, he's been working with the planning division on a number of projects. He's actually prepared a very short presentation. He'd like to talk to you guys about some of the great work he's been doing. Noah, I'm going to yield it to you.
Noah, where are you from?
Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm a student at Georgetown College.
Thank you.
Well, we're setting up the PowerPoint presentation there. I'm a student athlete at Georgetown College. I'm a major in English and a minor in criminal justice. I plan to go to law school to study law after graduating, and I'm considering working more with GSCPC in the future. So just a brief overview of some of the things I worked on in my time here. Identified some instances of subjective language in our zoning ordinance in pursuit of compliance with House Bill 443. Collaborated with Ward Hall, Georgetown College, and the Kentucky Heritage Council, facilitating a community event about awareness for historic buildings. Identified potential improvements to the subdivision regulations, zoning ordinance, and sign ordinance. Assisted planning staff in traffic study research to identify the traffic impacts of proposed developments, and did the same in regards to parking code. And then assisted staff in research and review of Board of Adjustment applications, usually sign variances. So for House Bill 443, I'm not going to go over the details. We're all kind of too familiar with that, but reviewed the zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, and all of the other ordinances to identify instances of subjective language that could be better, improved in accordance with House Bill 443. So after we identified some of these instances, I worked with Holden, Mark, Rat, and Elise to kind of reword some of our language to better fit the provisions of the bill. And this was a good introduction to the workings of planning and zoning. I was kind of out of my depth at first, but in hindsight, I'm grateful to have had that challenge early on. So sign ordinance was one of the big overarching projects of the summer. We identified that our sign ordinance was in need of updates. Some of these updates, like implementing more objective standards in our ordinance, was already done in the work for House Bill 443. Other work consisted mostly of sign policy research, usually reviewing model ordinances and other cities' ordinances to see where we could kind of stand to improve our revisions. Some of my proposed amendments, these are all kind of conceptual. None of these have crossed into text amendments yet, but brightness restrictions for illuminated signs at night, restrictions on signs advertising the sale of tobacco and nicotine products, etc. So one of the most fun projects that I worked on was with Ward Hall. Recently, they switched over to a C1 conservation zone to protect the historic character of the building and the area around it. So to celebrate, we had a event at Ward Hall to celebrate Georgetown and Scott County's historic buildings. I assisted in recruiting some guest speakers from faculty from Georgetown College, and that was a lot of fun for me because I got to go research and look at kind of the history of the local community. If you saw any tacky flyers around town, I was responsible for publicizing the event, so some of that was my fault. Then we have some pictures of some of the work that was done. And then another overarching project was working on definitions in our zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, and sign ordinance. If you stumbled across an unknown word in the regulations and you couldn't find out what that means, and you referred back to the definition sections and you still couldn't find it, that was what we aimed to try to fix. For an amusing example, we have tomfoolery in our sign ordinance as a definition, and it's never mentioned again. So. But most of the work just included researching definition sections of other jurisdictional ordinances and then cross-referencing that with the terms that are contained in our ordinance to see like what words do we use that we could list in the definition section. Variance applications, more of a day-to-day nature. As I worked on the sign ordinance with Mark, that kind of became something I was more familiar with. So ended up reviewing some sign variance applications alongside Rhett, and then just ensuring that our recommendations align with the existing provisions in our sign ordinance, as well as KRS 100-243. Traffic and parking studies, worked with Elise to compile data and crunch numbers on the traffic impacts for some of the new developments. Woodland Park was a good example of this. Which really just consisted of referring to trip generation formulas to see what the impacts of new residential developments would have on traffic. And then also looked at parking to look and see if we could change our parking provisions for planned uses. So in conclusion, I think that you become who you become more like who you surround yourself with. And I think you should always try to be the least intelligent person in the room, because you always will learn from everyone around you. I think in my time at GSCPC, that was always the case. I was always surrounded by great people who knew more than me, who were always willing to share their knowledge with me. My time here cultivated a lot of personal interest and qualifications for working with law and legal language, especially at the local level. And that's pretty valuable going into a future, hopefully, in law school. And maybe most importantly, working with GSCPC gave me a lot more appreciation for the community here. I've always liked it here, but I don't think I understood or appreciated the amount of work that goes into create this special place of Georgetown-Scott County. Thank you.
What year will you be at Georgetown?
I'll be going into my senior year.
Okay. Where do you want to go to law school?
I'm not sure yet. That'll depend on how applications go in the fall.
Sessions and all that stuff. Yeah, well, good luck to you. Let me ask you, what interested you in this internship?
So it was recommended by some of the faculty. Dr. Swinford at Georgetown College, he runs the pre-law program there, and he recommended working with GSCPC. Went and interviewed with Holden, and I was, pretty sold from the very beginning.
Dr. Swinford was a great help to my son, who just graduated from Georgetown, so
Yeah,
take all his advice.
he's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Thank you, Noah. And the work you've done this summer is invaluable, and we need to make sure we have interns on a real regular basis. You can see how much work was compressed into just a few weeks this summer that our staff, with all their other work, may take a year or more to complete theirs.
Enjoy your senior year. It's
Yeah.
way more fun than real life, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We had one other intern as well. So whereas Noah primarily worked with the planning division, Kate Schindler, where's she at over here? Kate worked very closely with Ben in the engineering department, and then Whitley with the GIS department. And so just as much work as Noah was able to get up to working with the planning division, Kate was able to get up to just as much work. Kate did not prepare a presentation because I told her not to. But Kate, if you have anything you'd like to say, otherwise I'm sure Ben would be happy to rave about the work you've done.
I can say a little. So yeah, my name's Kate. I just graduated from Scott County High School. So I'll be attending the University of Kentucky for civil engineering in the fall. Super excited. So I've only been working with the commission just since the beginning of June, so I haven't had too much time. But in my time that I have been there, I've been just learning the basics, basically. I've touched a little in GIS. I've put in a little bit of storm and pipes and sewers and whatnot in the system, so I've learned how to do that. But then on the engineering side, I've been going through some recent and then some older plans of different sites and neighborhoods around Georgetown, and just going through them and basically taking inventory. But it's really cool just to see the plans and see like all the nitty-gritty stuff that goes into that kind of stuff. It's really cool, and I had no idea there were more than just like one set of plans, and there's so many different kinds of things that go into it, and they're so different in so many tiny ways that you would look at it first and think they're all the exact same, but they're actually completely different. It's really cool though. It's given me a lot more insight on what like civil engineering will be like, and just another, like a whole new world, more than just what I've seen already in high school. I attended ECS, Elkhorn Crossing School, which has the career technical pathways, and I was in the engineering village for all 4 years. So I've had a little bit of background on engineering as a whole, but this internship so far has already shown me so much more about what civil specific, in my mind, will be like. So it's been really exciting and really fun.
Great, Kate. Thank you.
Really good at impromptu speaking.
Thank That's not usual for engineers. Just teasing, Ben.
Kate, hopefully we may see you back as an intern over the next few years here, so.
And then if we can do one more thing, I'd love to get the commission to come around the front, we'll do a photo op real quick. You guys okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Put your pretty faces on, boys.
I'm gonna duck you out, maybe that'll save us.
No, come on, if I gotta get up, you gotta get up too, man. That'll save me, help you out. Yeah.
Every time I've tried to duck it, you may have to maybe get it.
We're gonna have the interns up front. Yeah. There you go. All right, you guys look like you like your shot. Very close. Almost there. This worked out really well. I think you guys done this before. All right. 1, 2.
Who should we look at?
Oh, no, right here. I caught the finger point. That's the one that's going in. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, guys.
You know, ladies first.
Thank you.
She didn't take up as much room as we
I try not to.
You're easy to get around.
I'm used to being the shortest person around. It's okay.
That'd be bad look.
All right, we'll get back to our official business now. Mr. Perkins, if you will swear everyone in that wishes to speak.
If everyone signed in, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the statements you're to make tonight be the truth to the best of your information and belief? Thank you.
All right. Like I said, we will move the colony up to the first item of business, and at our work session on Monday, Mr. Perkins made us aware of a couple of things, and I would like to call on him first and to explain what we did and did not do last month there.
Well, first off, I'm assuming you're talking about the colony application.
Yes, yeah.
We had a public hearing on that last time. It was actually a plan that should have gone ministerially rather than through the commission, because it was all objective standards. It was based on proper zoning, way below the density requirements for that area. Instead, we brought it here because that's really been our way of doing things forever. The problem then became we had a motion to approve, which failed. We didn't have a motion to deny, so we still had an active application before us. We then discussed the fact that they are objective standards. They had met every one of them. And we now actually, as of July 1, have a statute that says they must be objective standards and ministerially approved or denied. So it's back on this time, even though it could have been done ministerially, because we needed to explain what happened last month. So it's back on. They still have met all of our objective standards. Staff could have done that, but again, that would create what at least appears to be a conflict between staff and commission, and there isn't one. So we're back here again. I anticipate this time, because they have met, how many times have I said that? All the objective standards, so I anticipate that it will in fact be approved, because it really should have legally last time. But that's why it was not completed, not denied last time. That's why it should be approved this time, and I think that covers what we have had our discussions on.
Does it have to be another, it doesn't have to be a public hearing or anything, right?
No. Mr. Shirley, have you, staff has,
Well, I guess to begin, staff obviously is prepared to represent the application as needed or as the board feels necessary. Staff has also received communication from other members of the community that wish to speak and or present items. in light of the status of the application. So whatever pleases the board. Again, if nothing else, we do know that there are some community members that would like to speak and actually, in fact, have prepared some presentations of their own.
Okay.
So if the board would like that to be entertained and entered into the record, I can either yield to them. I'd be glad to refresh the application, whatever suits.
You made an excellent presentation last month. It is on the record. I see no reason to go back over it again. There may be some specific questions that the residents out there may have that you can address, but I see no reason to.
Did I remember at the workshop, one of you mentioned, or maybe it was you, Red, that maybe there was some small amount of additional information added? Or did I
Just
imagine that?
nothing to add to the report, especially to change the record.
Okay.
Just that, in the time between, staff continued to kind of dig around to see more precedents on the parcel. There had been other projects proposed at different times. However, those actually never made it up to the point of consideration for approval or denial. It's just that those were out in the air and dreamed up, but again, never actually brought to full fruition, neither for approval or denial. So if it does please the board, maybe I will just leave the graphics on the screen. I can go through as needed, and I'll yield to the community.
Sure.
Okay.
Now, the folks that are here to speak for or against this, like the presentation itself, we heard all the information last month. I don't think we need to go over the same things over again. If there is some new information that you would like to bring before us to consider, we would love to hear that. And so let's just go from there. And
If I may, just one
yes,
housekeeping thing. Can your mics face your faces and turn them on when you're speaking? We will not have a very good record if we do not have that.
Thank-
Please interrupt.
thank you. So is there anyone that would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth McKellar. I do also have some documentations I would love to share with the committee if that's possible. I'm not sure if I
Please.
can hand that over. So good evening, members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Elizabeth McKellar, and I'm speaking today on behalf of dozens of concerned residents regarding the proposed 10 townhome developments at 214 Colony Boulevard. We recently launched a change.org petition in opposition of this development, as this evening over 180 neighbors have signed in such a short time, voicing deep concerns about this property's scale, safety, and suitability. I brought a sample of the signatures with me today. It's not about inconvenience, it's about public safety, infrastructure integrity, and the long-term livability of our neighborhood. It's overdevelopment of a small site. The property is 1.9 acres. Development proposes 10 two-story buildings, 29 parking spaces, a dog park, and a stormwater basin on this tiny plot. Over 50% of the land will be paved or built on, leaving inadequate room for green space, safe vehicle circulation, emergency access, or snow storage. I'll give a visual comparison to understand how much is being crammed into this development. It's compared to a familiar reference point of a standalone Chick-fil-A restaurant. A Chick-fil-A restaurant typically occupies about 1.8 to 2 acres of land, very similar to the 1.9 acre site of 214. Their lots usually include a low-rise commercial building of about 4,000 to 5,000 square feet, a drive-through lane, parking with 50 to 60 vehicles, a wide open vehicle circulation path, and required landscape buffering. It's also worth noting that Chick-fil-A locations are notorious for generating very high traffic volumes on a very similar sized lot. A 2022 study by QSR magazine found that Chick-fil-A's drive-through averages around 140 to 180 cars per average. Many municipalities now require special traffic planning and dedicated turn lanes for Chick-fil-A locations. So even on a purpose-built commercial lot, accommodating this level of traffic requires strategic site design, overflow capacity, and sometimes off-site solutions. So now imagine 10 full-time residential buildings, guest vehicles, service and delivery traffic, fire lanes, and a retention basin all in the same footprint without those traffic mitigation tools. If a single Chick-fil-A building can cause traffic jams on a 2 acre lot, what happens when we put 10 homes, 29 cars, and emergency access into that same space? I understand it's zoned for high density residential, but that alone doesn't justify this plan. Yes, it's currently zoned that way, but that doesn't mean the project is safe, responsible, appropriate in its final design. Zoning is a framework, not a stamp of approval. One of the most critical failures of the proposed development is its single-point access design. The current plan calls for only one way in and one way out, a narrow curved entrance and exit off of Colony Boulevard. This configuration may appear functional on paper, but in real-life application introduces substantial and potentially life-threatening risks to both future residents and the surrounding neighborhood. Proposed driveway serves as the sole route for residential entry and exits, visitor and service vehicles, trash collections, deliveries, maintenance, emergency responders, and there's no second egress, no fire lane, no indication that emergency vehicles could circulate or turn around effectively within the internal road network, and there leaves zero margin of error in the event of blockage, breakdown, or high traffic incidents. And an emergency is a fire, gas, or domestic call. A blocked or obstructed entrance means that emergency vehicles may not be able to reach the affected homes, residents may not be able to exit development quickly and safely, and response times can be delayed, increased risk of injury and death. According to Section 10107.1 of the 2021 Internal Fire Code, developments with more than 30 dwellings require two separate and approved fire apparatus access roads. And while this proposed development contains fewer than those 30 units, this code sets a baseline for best practices. And experts in urban planning and fire safety strongly encourage two access points for any residential development that includes multiple homes and shared infrastructure. Moreover, both the National Fire Protection Agency and the Federal Emergency Management Agency recommend a dual ingress egress in residential clusters as a standard for community risk reduction. It's not a novel request, it's a reflection of decades of hard-won public safety wisdom. The planned entrance is narrow, curved, and immediately merges into internal roads. This design creates limited visibility for entering and exiting vehicles, tight turn radii that challenges larger vehicles, including fire trucks and ambulances, high risk of obstruction of a vehicle stalls, becomes disabled, or parks improperly, and no dedicated turnaround space for emergency vehicles without reversing. In winter months, the situation becomes even more hazardous. Even everyday service operations like garbage trucks or package delivery vans could inadvertently block the entire access point. If that happens during an emergency, the consequences can be dire. This issue is not just internal to the site. The proposed development funnels all of its traffic through a single uncontrolled access point onto Colony Boulevard, a road that is already congested, particularly during school drop-off and pickup hours, adding dozens of additional daily trips in and out of the narrow entry without a traffic signal, turn lane, or dedicated emergency access only, increasing likelihood of catastrophic delays during a crisis. Furthermore, Georgetown's already faced infrastructure stress during extreme weather events. Single entrance neighborhoods have historically proven vulnerable to being cut off either by snow drifts, ice blockage, flash floods, or debris. And this plan effectively creates a cul-de-sac without escape, a known pattern for emergency vulnerability. Even if an emergency vehicle does make it to the site, the current plan shows no access is wide enough for passing and setup. If a fire crew or paramedics are delayed even by a minute for navigation challenges, that can be a loss of a home or a life. It's not a theoretical concern. Across the country, developments with single points of access have seen tragic outcomes. In 2018, multiple homes were lost in California with wildfires when a cul-de-sac neighborhood had a blocked entrance and no escape route. In winter storm scenarios, emergency response times increased by 20 to 30% in neighborhoods with narrow single access points. Studies in municipal planning journals have found that single access neighborhoods face higher insurance costs, longer EMS response times, and more frequent service delays. Approving a development with only one entry and exit, especially one so densely built and poorly designed, flies in the face of both practice and common sense. The absence of a second access point is a design flaw. One of the other glaring omissions in the current proposal is its lack of demonstrated compliance with ADA. The current site plan shows no ADA designed parking, no visibly marked accessibility routes, and no documentation of how development will meet federally accessible requirements. In the case that this is an issue that will be addressed later or we'll add it later, that's not a valid excuse. It is common in early development presentations to claim that ADA elements will be finalized during engineering, but this is increasingly being recognized as a legal and ethical failure in municipal planning. Deferring ADA compliance sends a message that accessibility is an afterthought, a box to be checked, when in fact, it should be a fundamental element for any residential setup. Courts have consistently ruled that a failure to plan for ADA compliance during the design and approval stage is a form of discrimination, not merely technical oversight. One of the other most alarming aspects of the proposed development is the lack of a required traffic study, despite clear signs that this development will increase vehicle volume in an already congested infrastructure-heavy area. I've already sent emails about this, and I understand that the planning committee says that since it would be less than 100 during the peak hour trips, there's no need for a commission to submit a traffic impact study, citing guidelines from the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, which suggests that developments generating fewer than 100 peak hour vehicle trips may not require formal analysis. On its face, this seems legitimate, but here's the problem. That 100-trip threshold is a national planning standard based on generic development patterns and average vehicle trip generation. It does not account for local traffic volumes, road designs, or nearby traffic generators, which are key factors on Colony Boulevard. In other words, it's a general rule being applied to a very specific problem, and it's not responsible planning. Generic assumptions do not equal local realities. A trip estimate is not grounded in the actual traffic counts at the site or the surrounding intersections. Instead, it uses assumptions from Land Use Code 230 of the ITE Trip Planning Manual that suggests 6 to 8 trips per day per townhome unit, which is peak hour trips are estimated about 10% of daily trips, 6 to 8 trips per hour. But it does not account for guests, service vehicles like lawn care, maintenance contractors, package and grocery deliveries, which has significantly increased since 2020, rideshare pickups and drop-offs, school-related trips, overflow parking circulation, and emergency vehicles. And most importantly, it doesn't account the existing traffic congestion already occurring on Colony Boulevard during peak hours. Colony Boulevard is a primary connector road serving multiple residential neighborhoods and schools. Residents already report heavy congestion during morning and afternoon, bottlenecking near intersections where there's no turn lane or signals, high speed during off-peak hours, and lack of pedestrian safety and infrastructure, especially near the curves or cross streets. The proposed developments would funnel every single vehicle from its 10 units, including residents, visitors, and service vehicles, through a single uncontrolled driveway onto this busy road. Without a traffic study, there's no documentation or data showing how this new influx would affect flow, safety, or travel time delays. It's especially concerning that Georgetown's population has grown more than 50% the last decade, and traffic volumes have increased in tandem, particularly in corridors connected to schools and retail zones. The city has limited capacity for road widening and signal upgrades in already built out areas. In short, this road is already under pressure, and that pressure is being ignored within this proposal. I understand that traffic impact studies are not a formality. They are critical planning tools to assess how new developments will affect infrastructure performance, queue length, and delay times. By passing this step, the Planning Commission has to guess what the consequences will be in supporting the approval of this project without knowing whether the roads can support it. The Georgetown City County Subdivision and Development Regulation allow the city to require a traffic study if the proposed development raises potential concerns about safety, congestion, and compatibility with surrounding infrastructure. Clearly, those concerns exist here. A single entry point with no traffic control device, a location on a major connector road, close proximity to schools and other traffic generators, no space for deceleration or turn lane, and lack of visibility around the curves on a site entrance. The County Commission has the authority and hopefully the obligation to request a study before allowing this proposal to be moving forward. I say it is well within your discretion to say this project may not exceed the 100-trip threshold on paper, but it presents real traffic and safety risks on the ground. These are not hypothetical problems, these are lived realities, and in fast-growing towns like Georgetown, once a project is built, it's rarely reversed. The traffic patterns and congestion it creates will remain for decades, impacting everyone every day. In conclusion, we deserve data, not assumptions. And also, the proposed development in 214 poses serious concerns regarding stormwater management, which have not been adequately addressed in the current plans. While the developer has stated the stormwater retention basin will be included, critical details about the design, capacity, overflow strategy, and long-term maintenance have not been disclosed publicly. In fact, the city planner has confirmed the stormwater specifications will be finalized after the property receives preliminary approval. This is not a minor issue that can be resolved later. It's a question of public safety, environmental responsibility, and downstream risk, and it should be considered non-negotiable prerequisite for approval. 214 parcel includes a significant elevation change, approximately 16 feet from the north to the south side of the property. This means any increase in surface runoff caused by impervious surfaces like rooftops, roads, and parking lots will naturally flow downhill towards a stream along the eastern edge of the property. That stream, according to the planner, is already known as to flood frequently. This is not a speculative issue, it's a documented concern with real-world consequences for properties and families located downstream. Increased runoff will result from the approximately 30,000 square feet of new building structures, 13,000 square feet of vehicle use area, sidewalks, driveways, and other impervious surfaces, and the loss of existing vegetation that currently absorbs rainfall. In total, more than half of the site will be covered in hardscape, leaving very little natural ground absorption to absorb precipitation. This is a classic setup for downstream flooding. While the survey requires the DELA include stormwater retention features after approval, we're asking that this be made beforehand, where we know the engineering specifications of the proposed retention basin, the volume it's designed to contain, the rate of inflow and outflow, emergency overflow strategies in cases of extreme weather, the design storm the basin is built to withstand, 10-year storms, 25 years, 100-year storms, and long-term maintenance plans. Without the data, the public and the Planning Commission is being asked to approve a project blind. There's no way to evaluate whether the proposed basin will be sufficient to manage runoff from 10 buildings, driveways, roads, and parking lots. This is not just a theoretical concern. Inadequate stormwater management has been a leading cause of residential flooding across the United States, especially in suburban and semi-rural developments where infrastructures were approved based on incomplete or outdated models. Georgetown receives on average 46 inches of rainfall per year, which is significantly above the national average. Localized heavy rains events have become more frequent in recent years, a trend reflected across the Midwest due to climate change. This means that stormwater infrastructure must be built for more than baseline conditions. Relying on a post-approval engineering process that does not account for changing rainfall patterns is a recipe for inadequate drainage and eventual flooding. Even if the retention basin is built to minimum code requirements without a hydrological study, there's no way to confirm whether it would hold up against actual storm conditions or where the water will go if it overflows. Once the water leaves the development, it doesn't disappear. It becomes the responsibility of adjacent property owners in the city. Increased runoff from the site may flood neighboring yards and basement, overwhelm culverts, ditches, and existing drainage structures, contribute to erosion, and damage roadways and utilities downstreams. Unless this is properly modeled and mitigated, the project will externalize its drainage problems into the rest of the neighborhood, effectively passing the risk to people who have no say in the design. Trust us is not an acceptable stormwater plan. We approve a commercial factory without knowing how it handles hazardous waste. Would we approve a new road without knowing whether it meets minimum load bearing? Why would we ask to approve 10 densely packed homes and nearly 50% hardscape coverage without any assurance that the runoff will be safely managed? Stormwater management is not landscaping, it's a core infrastructure. Until the data is available, the Planning Commission and the community are operating on the dark. And in stormwater planning, what we don't know can hurt us. In conclusion, I speak not only for myself, but for many in the community who share deep concerns about this proposal, as reflected in the petition with over 180 signatures. This project raises serious and unresolved questions about safety, access, infrastructure, and environmental impact. It asks us to overlook risks that should be addressed, not deferred. Growth is inevitable, but thoughtful, responsible growth is a choice. We respectfully ask the Commission to deny this proposal as submitted. The cost of moving forward without answers is too great. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Staff have any questions?
Sir, is this my time to speak, or do you want?
Yes, if you have something new to say, I doubt seriously that there's anything
I
that,
have nothing along the lines of what you, I wanted to elaborate on a few points and just give you a scene of what's actually at the site. I think again, my name is Mike Kerber. I'm at 116 North Lafayette. Obviously, I just wanted to echo those concerns once again, and I want to appreciate, offer my thanks to Elizabeth for putting together some great research. We are talking about an area that is green space. There's probably at least 20 to 30.
I need to get, hey Jay, I need you to mirror the screen so we can actually see the pictures in the current screen stands. We need to mirror the screen on here. I don't know if that's a setting that I have or if that's yours, but
Just you have to drive in there.
I have it here.
There's two different photos on that. One for Elizabeth.
Yes, I did see that. I did set up this.
So it's folder number 2. Yeah. Statement orders. by, this probably looks flinty, it's the pool in my backyard. This is the before picture, and obviously I'm doing a crude Photoshop job here that does not represent the exact plan, but it's just to give you a rough idea. You can advance to the next picture. So, if you go by the boundaries, I understand it, that's about what we're looking at. There's gonna be bushes or whatever to mitigate or whatever, but we're talking about this being right up on people's properties with the parking lot. You wanna take it, that's my next door neighbor, that's what they're looking at right now, versus the next one, potentially afterwards. Very close, and parking lot is what is sitting next to it. One more picture I have for you. We've got Haverford, which we mentioned before, which is up the street, the largest complex in our subdivision. Kind of tucked away back, they kind of do their own thing. If you'll notice, I mean, it's not really an eyesore that's surrounding homes. It's not the parking lot that's facing those homes. It's just the back of the units, and, you know, there's fencing and everything that keeps it, you know, pretty private. So my point is that just the way this thing is configured on the ground is a real eyesore, in my opinion. I mean, it's one thing to do this and cram it into that space, but to do it in the way in which they're proposing, I don't think it's very fair to the neighbors. I mean, again, I had the opportunity to purchase this property, and I didn't have the resources to do that, but I don't feel like we should be punished, you know, with this rental space. I just think that we're talking about 10 units, 29 parking spaces in what's the heart of the subdivision. I mean, the Haverford is tucked all the way at the back, and even the other apartment complexes are all kind of spread around, but this is, you know, one of the first things people see when they drive in. And as to what Elizabeth was mentioning about the traffic issue, I had a couple of pictures of that, which we don't have to pull those out. But basically, you've got in front of her home, there's kind of a choke point where you've got, it's a boulevard with a median right up until you come to the driveway. And so you've got, you know, kind of two separate situations going on, and it draws down into a bottleneck. So, I mean, it is a pretty tight traffic situation you're talking about there at the one entrance that you got to this area. And I just urge you to consider all of our objections and the signatures of, you know, 180 plus people that we obtained through change.org.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, you can have a seat there. The road is boulevard and bottlenecks down. That's, you know, that was a design scheme, and that's just the way it is. I mean, I don't know.
Ms. McKellar? Ms. McKellar, am I getting that right? Yes. Okay. I would just say, I certainly appreciate your passion for the project and all the detailed research that you did. I think, you know, I shared it last time, and I'll share it again now. And I understand also how, in an ideal world, especially if your neighbors, right, all of these T's would be crossed and I's would be dotted before anything moved forward. We do have very specific steps that are a part of each process, and we can't hold these developers to a higher standard than we hold other developers as it relates to compliance with the planning and zoning ordinances. We can't hold them to less standard either. And our job here is to interpret and fairly apply those planning and zoning ordinances in all cases, whether we agree with them personally or not. So anyway, kudos to you certainly for your impassioned presentations.
Yes. I would like to address just a couple of things. You talked about, you didn't think this development was ADA compliant. That's up to that developer. That's not going to affect the rest of the subdivision. You know, can the fire trucks get in there and turn around? I don't know. But the fire department will review these plans, and they will say yay or nay, it can go forward. It's not our call to make, because we don't think the fire truck can turn around, or the garbage truck. We have agencies within the city and the county that make those calls. All we can do is say, does it fall within the parameters of this development? And that's all we vote on, not whether that fire truck can fit in there or not. Or by having one entrance wildfires in California, developments get burned up there. We have to look at what's affecting us today, right here. Does the stormwater runoff in the detention basin, is that not large enough to support this development? I don't know. That's what the engineers are for. You were talking about the developer making assumptions, and then you all are making an assumption that detention basin will not work. We will find that out at some point in time down the road. Our engineering staff and the state will look at it, and they will say yay or nay. We could approve this tonight, and then the state turn around in 2 months, say, no, it doesn't meet this, or this standard. But it does meet the standard of whether we can vote on it. Does it fall within our jurisdiction? And that's all we can do at this point in time.
If I'm just add one thing, Charlie. Virtually all the topics, I won't say all, although I think it's probably all, will all be dealt with before this gets final approval and they start actually turning dirt. This isn't guesswork. This is preliminary. They give us a general layout. They show us the density. They show us where things can work. And then when it comes back for final development plan approval, all that stuff has got to have engineering, it's got to have numbers, it's got to have details. And, I mean, all that's covered. And the assumption that we just give things a lick and a promise, just simply that's just not so. It's not been so, and it's not that way tonight.
All right. Any other statements?
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
So we've been told that we can't do anything but just say yes to this, even though it's preliminary development plan. So we can't question the plan at all about the people, like when they pull in and they're parking in those spots, their lights are gonna be shining right into a house. Now, that was a big thing when Joe was here, when he would look at the development plans, is, hey, where are the lights of this vehicle gonna go when they turn? We've seen him several times he'd do that. That was always forethinking in his planning. Now, I don't know if there's enough greenery there to stop that. It doesn't look like it is to me. That's a question I've got, is the lighting when they turn in and park there.
All that will be looked at.
Yeah.
And that's what they do.
And my other question would be, this is an old development, correct? R3. The entire thing's R3. Can you pull up a picture of the entire development like it was, the one that's actually
Sure,
the
and
the
whenever.
satellite view? The satellite
Mr.
view?
Green, whenever you would like, I'd be glad to elucidate a little more, and I'm sure the engineer here would as well.
Yeah, there, that's the one. If that were a blank sheet of paper, and somebody came with a plan that said, I want all this in R3, and I want to put 10 condos in here right now, would we think that's a good plan? And I'm not putting, I'm just something to think about.
I'm not,
Yeah, rephrase the question.
If that were a blank sheet, there's no houses, no homes built there at all, and they come in with this plan for the entire development, they
And
want
this
it
is
all.
gonna be phase one.
This would be
Right.
phase one, but we wanted all R3, and we want to put condos here, right, and they want them to back up to these houses right here.
as
Would
long
that-
as any sort of development met the standards as they exist in the ordinance, the schedule of area and dimensional regulations, subdivision and development regulations, landscape ordinance, et cetera. Yes, short answer, yes. Do we carte blanche everything? We do not.
Right.
If I may, for just a moment, kind of speak to the process. Again, this is a preliminary plan. When things walk in the door, they go through a cycle. One of the biggest and most important and first steps is what we call our technical review committee. There have been concerns expressed about drive lane widths and turnarounds, et cetera. One of the first people in the room for any and every plan we receive that goes through technical review committee are the Georgetown and Scott County Fire Departments independently, city and engineer, et cetera. The drive aisle you see here is 26 feet wide. The first iteration of this plan admittedly did not have a turnaround that suited the Georgetown Fire Department. So the engineer took it upon themselves to redesign it under the advisement of them. And this is the plan we have now. Again, will this potentially be the final iteration? Maybe not. The Georgetown Fire Department, other service providers, municipal utilities, et cetera, do have to physically wet sign these plans. They will see them again. They will see them in action. As far as landscaping and lighting, et cetera, once these come back to us, while it is not required at this stage, myself and other members of staff do ask that they submit a preliminary landscape plan, if no other reason than to be able to somewhat illustrate to yourselves and the community of this is how the development will function. These are the screening measures that will be put in place. Again, we can't ask that people put in 10-foot tall trees day one. Things do have to mature. They do have to grow into their proposed use. But yes, to address many of the points and concerns, there are many, many, many checkpoints along the way. I can assure you that the engineer's office is extremely thorough. It's something I don't truly understand, but I try to make my attempt at it. Kate, that spoke earlier this evening, kind of elaborated on just how detailed it is and how astonishing it can be. I can assure you that our engineers on staff and in the city and the county leave no stone unturned, no drop of water unaccounted for. So if there's any further technical questions, I could yield to the applicant or their engineer.
Does the applicant or their engineer have any comments to make?
Let's see, and if I could, there are obviously, Elise, thank you for handing me these. Just as I kind of highlighted a moment ago, the conditions of approval for any preliminary application do include various steps of approval by other bodies. So.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, I'm the developer, and we are well within the zoning ordinance, the neighborhood plan, everything. You know, we can build up to approximately 30 units on this 10 acres per what the current law is. So, you know, we're asking for a lot less of that to blend into the neighborhood more. And again, to speak on like he did, the fire marshal has already looked at this. We went back and forth. We gave them what they wanted. As far as the stormwater management goes, we're going to be working with engineering to do that. So all that's going to be perfect. And you know, for a civilian to say they need to see that plan to make sure it's good kind of undermines what the engineers know and what they do for a living. You know, they know best on that. So again, we're just doing what the law states we can do on this, and that's all we're asking for. So thank you.
Thank you.
I do think it's important to note that you're actually below the density of what you would
We're
be allowed to do.
of what we technically could put on that property.
And that goes back to the R3, the entire thing being R3. That guy could tear down his house and put up an apartment building, which makes no sense.
came here.
And that's where we go by mistakes in the past. We continue to have to deal with those mistakes, but I don't know how we're not dealing with
I guess you're sitting here today saying it's a mistake. I mean, that's also a matter of opinion to some degree, right?
it. Well, the whole thing being R3, that,
Well,
Also, as another point of due diligence, with the understanding that this parcel did have a proposed use in the past, which has since changed. Elise, in particular, went back and did all the math on all the different phases of the colony. Being that it is all zoned R3, but a lot of it is larger single-family lots, it is severely, to use that word maybe incorrectly, under-densified as an R3 development on the whole. So implementation of this development plan or any others would barely raise the headroom in that regard. So the development as a whole, even with the change of concept or scheme of this parcel, does not affect the density on overall level.
yeah, because being R3, if you could put 30 on that, we could put like 3,000 in the entire development or something like that, and into that road, and we couldn't say no. Am I right? Is that right? We couldn't say no?
Unless we instituted zone changes, went through all those public hearings, which we've done that once in history, I think. Because the fact is, it's wildly under density for what it could be. And it was designed that way. Now, why the initial developer requested R3 everywhere when, well, for example, the huge lots in the very front, either going down the front part of the boulevard or to the left, that was part of the original plan. Now, why they said make it R3, I have no idea. But from the very beginning, the outlay or the layout was far less than R2. I mean, it is very low density overall compared to what an R3 could be. One other thing that Red did not mention, I don't know what the planning theories were back then. I wasn't a planner then, I'm not a planner now. But there's far more emphasis these days on different uses, mixed densities, mixed, this guy, there wasn't back then, except that is what the developer wanted, was a mixed use. So he got the most density zoning, and then he lays out things, none of which are R3. None of them. Just like this one isn't R3. This is, it's probably R2, I guess, I don't know what, but it's certainly not R3. You could have 30 units if it were really R3 density. That's just the way the thing was developed, but it's never been too dense, never. And it has been designed for what has actually gone there. So, I mean, it just, to call that a mistake, a difference in philosophy maybe, maybe a difference in time, I don't know. But now we do things with various uses
Yes.
together. And the theory these days is that's a better use. I don't know, maybe it is. I'm not gonna go back to school and find out. But what we've got here is they've got R3, and he's asking for a third of that. They've matched all the boxes. Law says it needs to be ministerially approved and move on. And all the questions that were raised, and they're wonderful questions, but they're covered. I mean, that's why we have staff, that's why we have fire departments, that's why all these people have their input. And to basically say we're creating danger because that's not in place now, nobody's is in place on a preliminary plan. Nobody builds on a preliminary. They're gonna build after they get all this stuff done. And it's gonna go through an awful lot of hands between now and then, and deal with all those issues.
All right, thank you, Mr. Perkins, for additional insight there.
May I speak?
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Realhouse. I live at 215 Colony Boulevard, and I just kind of wanted some clarification. If why was it opened to a public hearing if we have no input regarding this property development plan being proposed, and it's supposed to be all ministerial? What is our input here supposed to accomplish?
Can I address that one too, Charlie?
Please.
Yeah. Because traditionally, both commission and staff have wanted to hear what the public had to say. The law, even though there's a statute on it now that says they must be done this way, the courts have said that for years. If you've got objective standards, we should not be turning it down. They're called us creatures of statute. We've got to do things the way the statute's set out. Well, sometimes the way the courts interpret those statutes. If they match all of our regs, they should be approved, period. Nonetheless, we've
Without
always...
discussion.
Well, yeah, it's supposed to just be ministerial. Staff gets in a plan, they look at it, goes through all the hands, and they sign off on it. We don't
That's why I was
see it.
confused why this
But
was
we've
open
always done
in the
it
first
that way
place.
because we wanted to hear what the public had to say. I'm not saying that no one has ever given us an ounce of insight that didn't help. I'm not gonna tell you that. But so often, people say, that's not covered. Well, no, not yet, because we have a whole process. And it'll go through that process. Bunches of people who are actually trained and experienced will go through it, and they will make adjustments. And a developer who wants to have as little trouble as possible will go in there and take those red lines and make the plan better and better. Which is, as he said, that's already happened, at least in one instance. That's what happens all the time. Not that there aren't mistakes made on occasion, but considering the numbers of decisions and the numbers of mistakes, it's a pretty small number.
And
The law changes relevant.
And when the law changes.
the reason they're doing that, and it makes sense, is because that keeps the good old boy system out of check. That we can't approve something because we know somebody or don't like somebody. If it meets the regs, it doesn't matter who's applying or what they're doing. That's the reason that's that way, and that makes sense to me.
Okay, because I hear stuff like what he said. He said we could build 30 units on this land, and I'd be like, that
Well,
doesn't
they
seem
still
possible
have to meet all
at
the
all.
regs, but it's R3, and that is a, what is it?
It's outdated is what it is.
18 an acre? 16 an acre. So 1.9, so 16 times 1.9. He's only asking for 10, so he's well within the density requirement.
Is that whole
I
track
understand that.
1.9 or just the part you can build on?
No, the whole track is 1.9.
So if we were doing a regular farm track, we wouldn't allow them to use the acres that are like non-buildable as the acres to do their, correct?
Yeah, because this
Well,
seems to
yeah,
utilize
but
the entire
this
space.
doesn't have any non-buildable area to it.
Well, you can't build on
Hey,
the power lines. the right of way.
Oh, well, it does have an easement.
Like I said,
Yeah,
everything
that's
over
true.
there you can't
That's true.
build.
No, no. you
But
can't.
even if you took that out, it would still
Yeah, it
fall
would still,
below.
it'd still be there, that's fine. I'm just making that aware.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's
Yeah,
true.
it's still under that, but you
But
couldn't
you
put
could still
30 on it.
probably add quite a bit more even without bothering that easement.
I
yeah.
think it would just put everybody at ease if there was a new development proposal that was different from the one that they gave us last month. This is exactly the same, hasn't been touched, hasn't been addressed at all.
It's still preliminary.
That's-
It's still
I
got to go
understand
through
that.
all those steps with all the changes that
But
might
if it's
end up being made.
preliminary to be proposed to you, it should be different from last time, correct? Like, to
No,
take
no,
into
not
any of
necessarily.
that
The
stuff?
only change, there's no change. It came back here because it wasn't officially denied last time, and because in the meantime, the law changed. As Charlie said, the law has always been that we shouldn't hear the things we've heard, but we've kind of done it
But,
anyway.
well, now
But
there's a
July
statute.
1st,
Now there's a statute.
it's like, now they really mean it.
Yeah. You didn't take us seriously for the last 30 years.
Now we're gonna
well,
pass a
take it now.
statute to make it.
So what was the specific law that changed that made this ministerial instead
Legislature.
of? What was it?
Kentucky State Legislature made the change, and it was effective July 1st.
Thank you. And then, I guess, all right, all I ask is maybe, Chris Mulberry, if you could just maybe reduce the amount of units. You said you took it down to 10, down from 30 to make it match the rest of the residential area. Maybe like 4. 4 is great. 4 would be great, and then maybe just put them on the side of the other residents so that the water can flow down where the asphalt reaches. Like, that's my only input, I think, I
Thank
can give at this point, so.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing me.
Chairman Flynn, if I may.
Yes, please.
Prior to a motion being made, I would just like to remind the commission that we currently have 10 conditions of approval that sit with staff's recommendation. If the commission feels like any other conditions need to be added, modified, changed, or so otherwise utilized to account for the input of the public, that may be an excellent place to place those concerns. That's all.
I would just like to add something in there to the lighting for those cars shining right in that back, whether it be just make sure it's in there a little bit more direct.
They have to submit
I'm
a
sure they will.
colorimetric plan, and that's got to
At some-
demonstrate that that doesn't
At some point
happen.
in time,
Condition
but not
A.
tonight.
Yeah,
And it is condition A, so pending the first.
yeah, and it's in the conditions.
All right.
Yeah, those are pre-existing ones. In this instance,
That doesn't even have to be there because that's part of the regulation.
yeah, it's baked into it. But, yeah.
May I read into the record? Conditions of approval. Conditions of approval for this application include all applicable requirements of the zoning ordinance and subdivision and development regulations. The applicant shall be responsible for all off-site road and public water and sewer improvements required to serve the proposed development. Any revisions or amendments to the approved preliminary development plan shall be reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission staff or by the Planning Commission board itself. This preliminary development plan approval is valid for 2 years, subject to the requirements of Article 406, Section 8 of the Subdivision and Development Regulations. Prior to, as part of, a final development plan approval, which will come later, the applicant shall provide the Planning Commission staff or mapping division with a digital copy of the approved plan. The final development plan shall comply with all stormwater management requirements according to the current stormwater manual, including a post-construction stormwater management best management practices. Mr. Krebs?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the acronym. An agreement, if applicable, which does include the City of Georgetown oversight. Mr. Krebs, is that correct? Thank you. See, I don't know anything about engineering, just enough to be dangerous. Number 7 being a photometric plan shall be submitted and approved as part of the final development plan. Photometrics speak to lighting on and off site, whether it be overhead lights, et cetera, or security lighting, all that good stuff. Again, more engineering documents. The applicant shall direct lighting away from adjoining property and not have any off-site impact. A species-specific landscape plan shall be included with the final development plan, indicating all trees to be preserved during construction. This landscape plan also details all the screening around the development to include what we call vehicle use area, which reduces the impact, sight, sounds, noise, et cetera, lights coming on and off the development onto adjoining neighbors. 9, all requirements of the Georgetown Fire Department regarding fire hydrant locations and emergency vehicle accessibility.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I will say the same thing I said last month, which is to make a motion for approval of PDP 2025-25 and PDP 2025-26 with all the conditions of approval Mr. Shirley just read into the record.
I have a motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Ms. Singer and a second by Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
I'll abstain.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Vest?
No.
And the chair votes yes. You will come see Mr. Perkins here. Thank you all for.
David, you're honoring no matter what's going on.
Just because it meets your regs, don't make it a good plan.
All right, back up to, next item of business is PDP 2025-19, Falls Creek Commons Concept Plan Amendment. If we'll wait just a minute till the crowd clears out, then we'll.
And everybody keeps. It's bad. That whole thing to be
All right, if we could move on here. Next item. Is that, Elise, is that yours or Red's or Mark's?
All right, okay, this is application PDP 2025-19. It is a concept plan amendment for the Falls Creek neighborhood. It's their mixed-use area as shown in their 2004 zone change application. This item was postponed from the meeting in June to address some kind of concerns, kind of potentially revisit the drawing board, and we've kind of worked with the applicant throughout the process to address some of the concerns that staff had had, and I have representatives of the applicant here that can speak about that further as needed. This is located off Meadow Lane and Champion Way. It is R1C PUD zoned for a larger part of the neighborhood and the pieces across the street, as well as the main kind of activity area is zoned B4 PUD. As it stands, the total number of dwelling units built out on the property are 308, and the maximum that it was approved under, specifically with the condition, was 338 to reflect their concept plan at the time of rezoning in 2004. And I will get to it in a moment, but you can kind of see it on the presentation screen now. The approved density, or the approved number of units, resulted in a density which is less than a by right density for the zone. So in doing that, it really kind of hampered down on a density that was already kind of baked in when they got their rezoning in. If they were to go to the density of the R1C zone through their PUD, you would be looking at 368 units on the property across all the locations for the property, which would equal that 4.4 dwelling units an acre, which is the standard for the R1C zone. This is the areas in question that we're talking about. So it is broken up into 3 parts at this point, or at least the geographical areas. In the east, on the same side of Champion Way as Ann Mason and Royal Spring, there is about a 5-acre parcel. Directly south of that, bisected by Champion Way, is about a 10-acre parcel. And then kind of the main area of activity is that core location at the southeast of the intersection of Champion Way and Cincinnati Pike. So these are kind of the 3 remaining large lot areas that have not had either dwelling units claimed, development plans really submitted or acted upon. And so when we were contacted by that, and we've been working with the applicant on it, they had came with some proposals, identified some discrepancies, and we're looking to kind of unlock an already available use just by kind of cleaning the record going forward. So I'll thank Jay with our office, who was able to make me this exhibit here to kind of illustrate the distribution of housing types, the number of units associated with each one, and then the locations and how they all relate. So again, as I stated, in total, we have about 308 dwelling units across all these areas that have either been claimed by a development plan or that have already been built out or are in the process of being built out on the property. This is the distribution of units by phase, as well as the types of housing chosen at the time, which results in that 308 that I mentioned there. So this is kind of our density thing. I'll kind of rest on this lot, thankfully. So in 2004, their concept plan showed 150 single-family detached, 25 duplexes and townhomes, and 163 apartments, thus resulting in the 338 units on the property across the 84 acres that was rezoned in 2004. When you look at the per net acreage density for this unit, or for this project, you are looking at 4.02 units an acre. However, again, as I stated multiple times over, they had been rezoned to a zone that would allow for them to do 4.4 units an acre. As it stands right now, I have in the 4th column, the 2024 count. It has all of the distribution of the residential units by their typologies. You can see in this kind of graphic here, you can see that the number of detached single-family dwellings has decreased over time. The number of townhome duplex-style dwellings has increased. The number of apartments is roughly about the same units. But over time, they've really kind of shifted the types of units around kind of as things came in, as proposals showed up. They just, with their PUD status, they were able to kind of transition back and forth and develop as the market demanded, as the community demanded in the past 20 years. When you consider the amended concept plan request, you're looking at an additional 3 single-family residential unit types, a net 0 on the number of townhome unit typologies, and then an increase in the number of apartment complex items, which would result in the 4.4 units an acre there. So when we're looking at the distribution of units, give it a pointer. It's much more fun to unsheath it. So in this area up here, there's the 2 that are separate from the larger neighborhood by the creek that bisects these properties. And the proposal and the request is to essentially account for 3 of those units east of the creek. And then the remaining units, regardless of what happens, would be located in the central area here in that vacant lot that you presently see in this data has remained vacant for 20 plus years now. They would be assigning them, in that instance, it would be about 58 units in that location. This was their previously approved master plan. At the time, it showed a large retailer with several outlot, small independent freestanding commercial units, as well as some mixed-use ones. Over time, again, we've had this PUD status. There have been shifts and ebbs and flows in demands, and the units have kind of shifted away from this multifamily, kind of putting it more into a more traditional style multifamily apartment system, or into their townhome areas, where they are seeing kind of an increased activity, increased density shift to those locations. When we're looking at everything, I was trying to understand what is the implications of this unit, and thankfully with the assistance of Noah, we were able to do some research, calculate and compare the trip generation over time with the units, as well as current conditions, and what the proposal and current conditions would result in the community. In total, in 2004, they had anticipated 274 AM trips, 343 PM trips. At this time, we are about half capacity in some regards for those uses, about 2/3 of what we expected. With this proposal that they've brought to us, they've shown several retail buildings as well as another restaurant space. So it would bring us up a little bit higher than what was initially anticipated. This is expected based off of the types of uses you have. When you have like a strip center, you have a smaller retailer building or multiple retailers in the same footprint, you tend to see that increase in activity because there's such a range of who could go into those locations. So we anticipate that that would be kind of what we see in those areas, and that would be the resulting volume. When we're looking at the single-family typologies, you can see at the time in 2004, the total number of residential trips in the morning was 217. The total in the afternoon was 282. In total, again, it's about 2/3 of the capacity, or 2/3 of what has been expected is what's going on. I would like to note, though, with the change in the unit typologies and the kind of reallocation of trips accordingly, we're looking at what was anticipated for residential trips was 217. Our estimates based upon the ITE current edition, which is the 11, is identifying that 204 trips will be generated in the afternoon in total across the single-family areas and the multifamily areas, and a decrease in the number of trips in the PM areas from 282 to 247 units, or 247 trips. That can be attributed to a lot of factors. Apartments may have fewer residents in it in comparison to a single-family detached structure. It is maybe more inclined for a population that does not have children, so they are not generating as many trips. And it's all variability and typology of unit, but that is where you kind of can see that decrease. Overall, you would anticipate some increasing in increased activity, but a lot of that is from the commercial activity that would be occurring on the property as they're proposing today. This is their concept plan and proposal here. So I've had to kind of recolor a couple of sections just because our scan didn't really turn out fabulously, but you can see the intersection of Champion and Cincinnati is up in this kind of north or upper left corner here, and then Champion Way follows along the upper boundary of this TV, and Cincinnati follows along the left boundary of the TV. For everyone's kind of general recollection, the gas station is at this intersection here. The Domino's with its small retail space is just north of it. And then there is a vacant pocket here that has been accounted for. It is not reflected in this plan at this point, but that is anticipated to be a solely commercial use lot. As you're kind of traveling east, or as you're traveling from left to right, you're seeing the existing bank building that I believe is now operating as a professional office, and then all of their kind of proposal putting in the middle. Along the existing kind of driveway that you're seeing the BP and the Domino's share, you're seeing a kind of commercial retail space in this area with a community small park. And then between that retail space and the bank area is where you would be seeing these apartment units that they are proposing at this time. Directly south of the bank is where you would be seeing potentially a restaurant retailer. Of course, we understand like this is a concept plan. They are illustrative in intent, and we will internally be seeing a preliminary development plan if it falls under the ministerial review, or if it has a variance or another waiver requested, it would return to you guys. So really just kind of depends on how and what they're proposing, on what and who will be reviewing it at that point. But we do need to, again, clean the record, identify where our units going, what is going on, and how can we kind of set the path down now and say this is where we're going to proceed from this point. So these are a list of 4 findings here regarding their proposal. But before I get to that one, I did miss it. So over time, this area has really been proposed to be a mixed-use corridor where it kind of was meant to be this revolutionary concept with these very close proximity and everything like that. And while it may not have the first floor commercial, second floor residential component, staff believes that with proximity and clear sight lines in areas that really identify safe ways for people to get from point A at their residence to point B at their commercial, that mixed-use intent can still be retained. We have several parks, several large pedestrian walkways across driveways, and some green spaces that would be shared, and overall, that connection through visuals and that kind of designated space for people to engage with an area is what makes something mixed use. They can choose to go down that path, they can choose to make a decision to mix in that area, or they can choose to not engage with that area. But this gives them the option potentially to go up to this. So at this point, staff does believe and finds that this does meet that mixed use intent by giving the community options to go from point A to point B in a safe manner, even if point A is the residential and point B is a commercial one, without relying on automotive trips, and again, in a manner that is safe and visibly appealing. We will be monitoring them throughout their process, regardless of who it goes to ensure that that is continued throughout, as this is the mixed-use area. We want it to retain and keep that purpose going forward. We've given, or they've asked for a lot of flexibility. Some flexibility has been given, some flexibility has not been given over time in the Falls Creek neighborhood. And this is one of those instances that staff believes that this would be an appropriate flexibility that is already kind of available to them with their PUD status, and would allow for them to kind of proceed and go forward and hopefully complete this neighborhood that's been having this large vacant lot for an extended period of time with no activity on it. Again, I'll go back to my findings. The findings, just kind of, the first finding is regarding the approval for their zone change. The second is regarding the general traditional neighborhood design, that very walkable, pedestrian forward, thinking of like a smaller kind of Summit at Fritz Farm potentially type vibe, where it's just that really close proximity, that like very people first approach, as opposed to an automotive approach first that you kind of see in the 70s and 80s in neighborhood design. Over time it's developed, and a variety of proposals have been changed and abandoned over time just to kind of get to where they are today. The current residential build-out is, again, 308 units of the 338 approved with the concept plan. It is understood that the concept plan is under density that is already given to this neighborhood and already allotted. And several plans over time have always referenced this 338 number, even though when you look at the math for it, it is under densifying the site with what they were given. They did perform a traffic review just to see that comparison. Staff performed one, the applicant's attorney also performed one, just to understand that distribution. In the end, the AM trips is 5.7% below what was anticipated, and the PM trips were 12.1% what was anticipated for residential areas when compared against the 2004 study. While the previous master plans show the multiple mixed-use types in areas under one roof, staff does believe that this does meet that finding, or this proximity does meet that mixed-use intent, as long as there is that preservation of safe access points throughout. As part of this is not just a quick procedural thing. In the interest of keeping a clean record, staff recommends that the Planning Commission take 2 separate actions associated with this application. The first of which would be to allow that amendment to the 2004 concept plan number of density, or number of dwelling units in the density calculation. That's kind of that part. And then the second part being the concept plan review for going forward in the area. Staff does recommend an approval of the concept plan amendment to increase the number of dwelling units for the total property that was rezoned in 2004 from 338 or 4.0 units, dwelling units an acre, to 369 or 4.4 dwelling units an acre. Again, the plan limited the density less than what was by right in the zone, and has been referenced throughout. If the commission recommends approval of this part of the application, staff recommends the following conditions, which there are just the standard 2. So we would reestablish their cap at what is the maximum buy rate for the zone in their density. They would adhere to all of our regulations, and they would return to us with preliminary and final subdivision plats, development plans, all of our usual expectations. For the concept plan layout, staff also recommends approval based upon the fact that this proposal does align with that mixed-use intent as shown today with their R2 PUD, and recommends 4 conditions of approval: that they adhere to our regulations, that they be responsible for off-site infrastructure improvements, that they submit with preliminary development plans, preliminary subdivision plats in line with
their 2025 concept plan approval that we've seen today, and that they adhere to all of the design and development conditions set forth previously in development plans. I do just want to briefly hit on those. It is in the staff packet. They're a bit long, so I didn't entirely want to put you guys through it. But there were specific standards that were adopted in previous plans regarding the layout, the style, regarding architectural features, building materials, proportions, roof pitch and form. And so for those buildings that are commercial exclusive, staff would recommend that they continue to follow that design standard going forward, to create kind of a very cohesive environment, fit the existing buildings with any potential new buildings in the neighborhood. And
Thank you.
that's all I have.
Commission have any questions for Elise? All right,
Get the timer?
have the
Do you want the timer?
Does
We
the
have
de-
it.
Does
Yeah, I
the
think you
developer
need to
have
turn your
anything to
timer
say?
on.
Start the timer?
Let me tell you something.
We agree. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
That's a first there, isn't it?
I'm Joey Smith. I'm a co-applicant and owner of part of the property, and Bill Withers, who's not able to be here tonight, is co-applicant as well, and the staff suggested that we, or required that we both co-applicant this and both sign on. I just want to say thank you so much to Holden Fleming and Elise. This has been a process, 21-year process, but, and sometimes it's been awfully hard. Sometimes it's a lot of white knuckles. But either by default or design, or some of both, it's turned out almost just like we'd hoped for. And I'm very proud of it, sometimes maybe too proud. But with the forward thinking and the willingness that Holden has shown, just this planning and zoning staff is in great shape with Holden running the show. I just want to let everybody know that that's my opinion. And thank you for your consideration.
Hey, Joey, when you first started this thing, was Cincinnati Pike still a dirt road there? It seems like it. It's been going on forever. Yes,
It's not quite
sir.
as old as the colony, but getting there.
Yes, sir.
My name's Steve Bruwicki, B-R-U-K-W-I-C-K-I, 136 Falls Creek Drive here. Did your trip count for the vehicles cutting the corner and not going through the light and the school intersection during school changes and Toyota shift changes? Because that's the biggest issue we have is all the cars zipping, making the right off at 25 and then coming through the subdivision, blowing through the stop signs that are going through the school zones and all that stuff. So just want to see if that would be addressed as part of this with that trip count. Thank you.
So you're saying they turn there by the
BP gas station
BP
and cut
gas
through the
station,
subdivision.
cut through,
And then come out
back
across from
right
Royal
in front of
Springs.
schools there.
Yep,
Gotcha.
that way they're bypassing the light, they're bypassing the cops, the traffic.
Yeah, they
That's
turn
just-
right, turn right against there.
Yep. So-
Okay.
And I know we don't put speed bumps in, we've already had that discussion due to snow plows and everything else, because we, how do we slow them down, how do we,
Maybe they need to put one of those things in like they did to prevent
Serpentines?
people from going on Old Oxford from Connector. Because that same thing used to
Yeah,
happen
with the,
all the time.
with the little yellow cones.
Yeah, so now you can only come in and out
Well,
one
but
way. and
you
can't
gotta
cut
try, if
through.
you're turning right to go into the gas station,
Yeah.
you still gotta give them.
Okay. Just-
Thank you, Steve.
Excuse
Appreciate
me,
it.
excuse me, your name again, please?
Steve Bruwicki, B as in boy, R-U-K-W-I-C-K-I, 136 Falls Creek Drive.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
That wouldn't be under our, we didn't know
No,
anything about that,
that's
but
a
however, that would,
Policing issue.
that is ridiculous. Definitely see that.
I will say, so when I was doing our calculations, and I won't speak for Attorney Billings on this one, but when I was doing my calculations, I was exclusively looking at the trips generated for the specific parcels, not considering those external factors such as existing traffic conditions. Again, I just, for the purposes of these types of things, when I'm reviewing new plans, regardless of if a study's performed or not, I always check on everybody's math to make sure that they align appropriately. And in this instance, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I didn't consider all of those other, very valid, but other factors with my review.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will take a motion.
I guess two motions. The first
Yes.
motion would be, both of those on PDP 2025-19 related to that recommendation or motion to allow an amendment to the 2004 zone changes concept plan density calculation metric.
And just, and just based on staff report.
Based off staff report.
All right, I have a motion. Second. I have a motion and a second for approval. Ms. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Vest?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Can we make a note in the minutes about what we just witnessed?
Nathan, what did he have?
That was a no.
That just called off for a second. Motion that you include.
Oh, yeah.
No, so I'll make a second motion
Okay.
to approve PDP 2025-19.
We just voted on it.
We voted on the amendment to the 2004 zone changes concept. So they're both fall under
On the
this same staff report, but they're
2025-19.
two different actions
And this is also based on staff.
based off staff report.
Ms. Singer?
Yes. We didn't have a second, I don't think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Mr. Garrett, second, both. So we have a motion and a second by both people there. Mr. Vest?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. All right.
Thanks.
All right, next item is ZMA 2025-22 Woodland Park Phase 3, and this is a public hearing, which I am open.
Okay, staying in the same general quadrant of Georgetown, we will get to, wait for a moment, I'll talk very slowly. All right, so this is a zoning map amendment for 68.67 acres from R1C PUD to R2 PUD and C1 conservation. It is located at 1341 Cincinnati Pike and is, again, as presently stated, is zone R1C PUD. If this were to be approved, what they've requested is an R2 PUD area measuring 50.86 acres and a C1 conservation area measuring 18.01 acres. Surrounding zones are A1, R1C PUD, and C1, and they are proposing a mixed housing type development with a total number of residential units of 385 residential units, using existing roads, specifically Radler Lane, Stargazer Drive, and Birdside Birdside Boulevard to directly access Cincinnati Pike. So this is the property here. You can see Ann Mason and Royal Spring to the south, as well as Stonehenge residential subdivision to the west, and the Scott County Park to the southwest. As you kind of distribute everything, I just wanted to identify the phasing. So they have had and been approved for the platting of 2 phases so far. They are the wrong math. I do apologize for that one. So do not reference the lot count because I accidentally duplicated it and I didn't change that. But I actually do have the map here. So to correct the screen, phase 1 has 66 residential units and phase 2 has 158 residential units. So in total, you are looking at 224 residential units that have been approved and platted on this property so far. this is just kind of the larger context of the neighborhood. So I've identified the location where they'd request the rezoning. In red, the kind of, right? In what regard? I don't understand what that comment is for. I mean, in doing our research, this is the map that we have on record. This is a grab from the PVA database and plats.
Okay, we'll let the developer address that too.
We can
But
proceed.
With our information, that's the correct map. It may be different, but.
Yes, I will speak to that, and then if there are issues and errors, we can work with PVA to correct their parcel lines and work with the applicant as needed. Proceeding, the areas in light gray are those which have been annexed into the city of Georgetown at this point. So you can see the Quest Farm, now Scott County New High School. You can see the park. You can also see the existing middle school and elementary school. And then you can see the neighborhood as a whole. This is against city limits, so directly to the north is unincorporated Scott County. And the property itself was rezoned in 2017 to the R1C PUD zone. After several times of discussion, and then in 2018 they had received their preliminary subdivision plat approval. So this is their proposal as it stands, and I have it color coordinated, so don't you worry, I have it ready. So this is their proposal for concept plan for the PUD zone if this were to be approved, and this is an aspirational item. The concept plans are just used and requested by staff and the board to illustrate the potential development that you could see in a neighborhood. They show, look at those colors, I did so much drawing with those. In the gold are the single-family detached residential lots. You can see kind of along that north boundary, and then a slight kind of pop out directly north of that specific line, as well as along the southern boundary facing the schools. It is a single-family detached proposal. Also along the southern boundary, where we're still down there, they are proposing some townhome units and lots. And centrally to the property, they are also showing some townhome units and lots with an open space pocket in the middle. The area in purple is proposed to be an apartment area to allow for a mix of those housing options that they've kind of requested at this point. The area in green, which some of it does overlap with the area in blue, is a communal center area with some amenities and other features in it. The Bird's Eye Boulevard is the road that goes straight through the neighborhood, and that kind of dead ends at this point, at least as shown, into the community center location. And then the areas in blue are those areas which are being proposed to be rezoned to C1 conservation. It does and will shift the C1 conservation areas if this were to be approved, which that is just a result of a stream that is going through the property along the north boundary. We had requested, due to the stream's kind of layout and everything, and after looking at the requirements for riparian protection, that area would be more appropriately rezoned to the C1 in order to ensure continued protection and health of that area as the stream expands and gets closer to the dry run creek. They've also submitted this exhibit, which I believe is the second one in your guys' packet, illustrating their open space allocation. So there are several spots internal to the neighborhood. There's the community center, and then a portion of the waterway floodplain is proposed to have some type of area or space for them to utilize for potentially some passive recreation options. And then all the other areas is shown in that lighter green would be those areas that are also in the floodplain. And then the bright blue is the creek bed itself. This was their concept plan in 2017. They had requested the single family in the back and some more higher intensity activities in the front. Due to circumstances that I wasn't entirely present for, I was still in college, they had denied a portion of the request and had kept this R1C throughout. So that had been kind of the proposal. Since then, they've kind of flipped the layout, and now they're trying or are requesting to kind of keep some of that single family component in this area while also having that mixture, as I've stated. I do want to note that their proposal did include a traffic study. So in 2017, they had one performed at the three driveway locations identified with the pink arrows. And in 2015, staff requested a re-up of that one for this specific phase to determine what was the trip generation overall, what are we seeing, what would this add to the area. Staff then took that information, as always, and with the assistance of Noah, our intern, kind of compiled that information, created it into several charts, which are included in your guys' staff reports, and I have them on the screen as well. When you're looking at their distribution of traffic trips, the most valuable one, at least in my mind, is the top one here, but I did break it down into the by residential unit type. In 2017, they requested 685 total residential units, and with an AM trip generation of 395 trips and a PM trip generation of 499 trips, for a total average daily trip in the neighborhood, specifically weekday trip, of 5,103 trips. Current conditions, as it stands with phases 1 and 2, see 224 residential units with 168 trips in the morning and 224 trips in the afternoon, for a total of 2,100, or just over 2,100 residential trips across an average average day. With consideration of their request for the rezoning, that would add potentially an additional 385 residential units across a diverse volume of residential types, which would result in additional 187 AM trips or 243 PM trips, for a total trip generation of 2,864. If you do the math of those two items together, so existing conditions and also the requests that they've submitted that we're reviewing today, the total number of residential units would be 609, with AM trips generated of 355 and PM trips of 467, for a total number of trips of just shy under 5,000 trips across an average day. When you look at the comparison of the two items, with a decrease in the number of residential units as well as a shift in the number of, in the types of residential units proposed, you would anticipate 40 fewer residential trips in the morning, 32 fewer residential trips in the afternoon, and 106 fewer trips across an average day, which is about a reduction of 10% fewer AM trips, 6% fewer PM trips, and 2% fewer daily trips. Again, this decrease can be attributed to the number of residential units. Most specifically, while different housing types result in different trip generations, staff finds that the impact of the rezoning on the traffic infrastructure would be manageable within the existing system without requiring off-site improvements beyond reviewing traffic signal timing. And that is a conclusion of the traffic study that staff does make a finding of. These are kind of more distributions of trips if you really need them for whatever purposes, so I'm just going to move on. As part of these reviews, I felt it was appropriate to mention it, but understand that these would be discussed at the preliminary development plan, preliminary subdivision plan phase. There have been several changes in the landscaping requirements, specifically along the north boundary in green and the south boundary also in green. At the time that this was rezoned in 2017, there was a different type of residential or urban to agricultural buffer. I believe it was probably 60%, 50% smaller, less trees, no fencing. After reviews and consultations with the USDA Soil Conservation Board, a new proposal was put in and adopted by the legislative bodies and the Planning Commission that increases that number of, or that area and requirements for agricultural against urban uses to try to reduce the amount of impacts that they have with one another, protecting the agricultural areas, kind of keeping the urban stuff with the urban areas. So the new regulations are 50-foot wide buffer from center line with a with a planting installation and a no-climb fence measuring at least 6 feet in height. We would work with an applicant as they go forward. I do want to note, though, kind of stepping back to 2017, with that change in regulation typology, the applicant has expressed some interest in having kind of a transitional thing to let it kind of naturally kind of increase up. There are certain areas where it would just be kind of increasing off of, or just kind of extending single-family residential units off of the existing road or existing path without creating like a block separation. And so the plan would be kind of picking it up and then kind of slowly transitioning, or not even slowly, just transitioning it to the current regulations. As this is a PUD, oftentimes we have seen applicants request their waivers and variances at this time. Staff is stepping away from that strategy. Staff believes that it is important to review them at the proposal at face value at that point, with an understanding that there may be more requests because by nature it is a PUD, but that at this point in time, it is the most valuable thing is to look at the zones that we are talking about at that given moment. And just what do they want to do? Does this fit? And then if it doesn't fit with the concept plan, or if items don't get approved, when they're more locked in that, or when they're in a more binding thing of having the development plan, preliminary subdivision plat phase, then we can start to talk about those items and how we can, or what the applicant wants to do. Does that work? Does that not work after the fact? I've also shown two other kind of areas where you would see some buffering, so single family to multi-family perimeter requirements along the apartments areas, and then also some stream repairing and protection and reinforcement requirements that we would be putting in or requiring if this were to be approved. When we're reviewing rezoning applications, we refer to KRS 100.213, which states that before any map amendment is granted, the Planning Commission must find that the map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan, or in absence of such a finding that one or more of the following apply, and that such finding shall be recorded in the minutes and records of the Planning Commission or the legislative body or fiscal court. Item A is that the zoning classification given to the property is inappropriate and that the proposed zoning classification is a more appropriate alternative. Or B, that there have been major changes of an economic, social, or physical nature within the area involved which were not anticipated at the adoption of the comprehensive plan and which have substantially altered the basic character of such area. This is the future land use map for the 2024 comprehensive plan. It has been 1 year, pretty much to the day, that we have adopted the comprehensive plan or that the Planning Commission has reviewed it. And so we've been working with this plan for a year now, so very exciting stuff. We have our future land use designations, and this area is identified as the low-density residential as well as a creek corridor designation, which, I don't know why this is here, are defined as such. So low-density residential areas are for residential uses with some home occupations, which would only occur within cities and urban service boundaries, including single-family homes, duplexes, limited townhome development, and some appropriately scaled missing middle housing, which the plan later defines as house-scale buildings with multiple units in walkable neighborhoods. Staff, after review, believes and finds that the proposed rezoning to the medium-density residential zone aligns with the 2024 comprehensive plan, as the zone facilitates that mixture of single-family residential detached with that missing middle component, such as apartments, such as townhomes, such as live-work, which is not actually this circumstance, cottage courts, those types of designs that are kind of in need in the community that you see in old-style, old pre-industrial revolution areas, but you see kind of less of today. It is staff's conclusion that the R2 zone can facilitate a reintegration of that housing type into the community. The comprehensive plan also includes the following description for the future land use creek corridor, which states that it includes the 1% annual flood chance areas within the urban service boundaries, and they would be designated for conservation use. And the applicant does propose that this area retain or expand its conservation use, the C1 zone, to limit development, to let it naturalize accordingly, and to have it be the best way it can function today, which is to remain as a floodplain area that is unimpacted and unregraded, so that we don't have significant impacts to the flood boundaries elsewhere. Staff also reviews the body of text of the ordinance, so it is a tool. It's not just a map. There is also our goals and objectives that have been adopted by legislative body and this board. Staff pulled out 3 on this page, 3 on the next one, several community form sections, goals and objectives regarding flexibility in land use and efficient community design, as well as having sidewalk construction in areas with new development. Our regulations require sidewalk construction in residential areas, so we would be making sure that that is continued throughout, that the proposed developments would tie into existing residential development areas and would provide a way for people to have an alternative way to get to places besides pedestrian, or besides vehicle transit. While this may be a little bit away from a commercial unit, such as the proximity between Falls Creek's commercial areas and the single-family residential, multifamily residential areas, there is still a demand, there's still a capacity to want to walk to go to somewhere, to want to walk to go to community areas versus just getting in your car and driving. In this heat, maybe a little bit differently, but in most conditions, people are willing to walk a certain amount of distance, and as long as we can keep those going, we're gonna continue to have that happen. I have the further items here, which mostly talk about some creek conservation protections, some public areas and facilities requirements and expectations that they be connected, and then to provide a full spectrum of housing options. I understand we see a lot of a range of pretty much 3 types of residential units, but this zone could allow for alternative unit types and layouts which we do not see, which may be needed for our community. So having those spaces and having that zone that can allow for that could be a benefit to the community to ensure that we have housing that meets the demands of our aging population, of our young professionals population, of our young families moving in, wanting an upgrade or wanting a downgrade as they age. This zone could allow for those programs, and this could facilitate that type of development that has been identified and needed. I understand Georgetown has done a housing needs assessment, and that while the findings that I'm going to look to hold in, it's draft still. Okay, so they have not presented it yet, but we will be interested to see how that kind of works and how this could potentially kind of advance the needs that we have to kind of, or could address the needs that needs assessment has identified. Of course, it's in draft form, so we'll wait and see what that looks like. Overall, staff makes 4 findings. First, staff finds that the proposed rezoning with the mix of residential unit types meets the low-density residential and creek corridor future land use designation for the area. Again, with that protection, it's very key in this low-density area, kind of this zone that is chosen allows for that mixture, and that several goals and objectives also align with the proposed rezoning. Per the comprehensive plan, all rezoning applications, including floodplain and other protected lands, should be rezoned to the C1 within the extent of those proposed areas, and that we have that de-escalation pattern that we like to see where you, as you get closer, you see less activity, you see less intensity. Staff finds that the concept plan is, as presented, is appropriate for the R2 PUD zone. And after analysis, staff finds that the zoning map amendment satisfies the requirements of KRS 100.213, specifically the first item, which states that rezoning applications must be considered against the comprehensive plan for review and compliance. As a whole, staff recommends in favor of the zone change request for the 68.67 acres located at 1341 Cincinnati Pike, with in total 7 conditions of approval. The first 4 are listed here, so comply with all of our regulations. All areas within the floodplain be rezoned to the C1. This applicant shall be responsible for all off-site road and other infrastructure improvements, and that the number of dwelling units would not exceed what we're viewing at this point. Staff also has 3 additional conditions here, which talks about the minimum open space expectation. We have often requested a 10% usable open space component, and at least kind of some expectations of what that design would look like. So be improved and include amenities that are available to the general public in the community or the residential pocket, and 50% of that being located outside of, or at least 50% of that being located outside of the C1 areas. We do not want to see a lot of changes to our floodplains because it could have negative impacts upstream or downstream. And so we'd like to kind of keep things integrated into the neighborhoods to be more usable for the community as a whole. And then we would request that a plan for usable open space, including the amenities, be submitted as well. If the applicant does not progress to preliminary final development plan phase within 3 years of the zoning map amendment approval, then the approved concept plan would expire, and that the planning commission may initiate a rezoning back to an agricultural or some other appropriate zone. In this instance, it may be more appropriate to just revert back to its standing zone, but that is a discretion call from the planning commission board if it comes down to that point. The last item is an item that the applicant not exceed more than 70% of the housing units as one type. This is expected to be, as a low-density area, a mixture of housing typologies. And staff believes it is appropriate to condition that that mixture be retained throughout this project going forward, and always kind of be mindful of that we're not just seeing only one thing. We're actually seeing this execute that goal of that low-density residential, of that mixture. At that, I have no other additional comment. Do you have comments for me?
So, number 7, the housing units, that is taking all of them in to consideration, single-family, townhouses, apartments. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
That the total development won't increase more than 70% of any one type?
It would be the total area that is being proposed for rezoning at this
Okay.
point. So it would
Just
not be
this area.
considering, correct, we are not seeing a rezone of those 2 previous phases that have already been housed up
All
and
the
everything.
single family that's already done, that's not part of the 70%?
No, as
Okay.
it's not being considered at this point.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Elise? Does the developer or representative, consultant, anyone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Dick Murphy. I'm very pleased tonight to be representing the owners of the property. With me tonight is Kevin Rich of Rich Design. He's on the front row. He's our landscape architect designer. Diane Zimmerman is our traffic engineer, here to answer any questions you all may have about the development. Ms. Ketz did a good job of explaining the development to you. I'm not going to repeat everything she said. This is the 3rd phase of the Woodland Park subdivision. As she mentioned, it started in 2017. And at that time, it was all going to be single family, all very similar type development. We're proposing this zone change to allow a more diverse type of housing choices to people who want to live here in Woodland development. We're proposing still some single-family detached, pointer, the physical pointer there. Where, as you can see, the plan that we had approved back in 2017 was all single-family. So what I like about this plan is we're proposing some apartments here, but as you can see, we're buffering them along the northern boundary. Everything around the northern boundary is going to remain either single-family, detached, or the C1 zone. Along the southern boundary with the schools are down here. We have Cincinnati Pike out here. The schools are located to the southwest of Champion Way down here. But to the south, against the schools, this stretch is single-family. We have a small stretch here of duplex townhomes. There'll be townhome-style duplexes.
Does the owner occupy the town?
We don't know at this point. They're designed to be owner-occupied. So, single-family and townhome duplexes here. The owner owns these lots here, which are in either phase 1 or phase 2. So, where all the apartments are, the developer currently owns all those apartments right there. So what we're doing is putting apartments more or less in the middle of the development here. We're having, these are townhomes up here. These are townhome style duplexes here. We have a community center here, which is a swimming pool, fitness facility, clubhouse, which you find in all good apartment developments at this time. We have open space, which we're showing here on this. This plan has gone through a number of versions in our discussions with the staff since we filed it. We bring in a plan, they tell us how they think it ought to be changed, we change it and and bring it back in. So we've been doing that. But some of the important things I want to emphasize that Ms. Ketz touched upon is that in our traffic study we did, we're showing a lower trip generation than if we developed this property the way we originally planned. They may say, well, how is that? Because we do have more individual units than we had in the original plan. That's, of course, is because a single-family detached house generates more car trips than does a townhouse or an apartment. Ms. Zimmerman is here. I think it's 10.5 about for a single-family detached house, 6.6, something like that for an apartment unit. So even though we have more units, we have less traffic generated by the development we're showing you here. So we're putting less of a stress on the community transportation system here on it. We have more open space here than we did in the plan that was approved in 2017 as well. Instead of taking up every square inch possible as part of a lot for a single-family house, we're able to group it together and have those open spaces that I told you. Like I said, along the boundary, especially the northern boundary, we're continuing to have single-family detached homes along there. And as Ms. Ketz mentioned, we're going to have to transition our agricultural buffer area down, and we'll be dealing that with at the preliminary development plan stage on that, and we're aware of that. So we have fewer trips, more open space, but importantly, we have variety of housing choice. As you know, there have been a lot of announcements about additional expansion at Toyota and some of the automotive-related facilities in the area as well. So we're trying to make housing available to that segment of the community on here, and we're pleased to do that. We have 2 entrances onto Cincinnati Pike, so as the staff report said, we're adequate in that aspect. And we do agree with the comprehensive plan. I reiterated in my application a number of the goals and objectives and other elements that we agree with in the comprehensive plan. Ms. Ketz had specified those, so I'm not going to go back over those as well. As I said, the waivers will be considered at the preliminary development plan stage. But we're in an area here, we're near schools, right adjacent to schools. We're near 2 major community parks. We're near churches. We're near employment areas. This is an ideal place to propose what we're proposing to you today. As the comp plan, the 2024 comp plan noticed, the community's supply of housing has not kept up. We're doing a little bit here to try to catch it up for you on that. We agree with the comprehensive plan. We think this is an outstanding development. Kevin is here if you have any questions about the plan itself, and Diane is here if you have any questions about the traffic study that we did. I'd like to reserve time to respond to any issues that may come up, Mr. Chairman, but we're very pleased to present this to you, a plan that does agree with your comprehensive plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The line of house or lots there to the left of the apartments, you said it's owned by the developer?
Yes.
Are those houses already built, or are they open lots that will be built on?
They're open lots, I think.
They're already built?
They are.
Okay. Okay.
Excuse me.
Just 1 second, please. That's all right. We'll get you up here. Mr. Rich?
Yeah.
Kevin Rich, Rich Design. Is there a way we could go back to the open space exhibit super quick? Just a point of, no, I think the open space exhibit. I just wanted to point this out. This is the open space exhibit that we, for usable open space calculated. There'll be preservation, as you said, of the conservation area and designated open spaces. The community center is obviously the kind of what anchors all of that. all of those usable open spaces, including the community center, are open to the community. So everybody in phases 1, 2, and 3 will be able to access and utilize those open spaces. So we'll have a system of walkways and trails. We have a multi-use path that works its way down to the community center. We'll have walkways and trails as well as the amenities at the community center, which are all, again, open and available to them.
There's not a community center currently or any of those amenities?
There are not. There was not in the original plan. There is not currently. We're adding that as, the goal was to amenitize as well as add the mixed housing types. We wanted to try and amenitize the community to appeal to a wider audience, if you will. But yeah, I just wanted to point out that the open spaces would be available to the entire community, not just phase 3.
That open space will be fenced towards the creek, right? It'll be fenced off.
I'm sorry, say again?
The open space right there, close to the creek, it'll be fenced off, right?
No, that's just the dashed area because per code, we're only allowed a certain percentage of usable open space that's conservation area, I think it's accurate. So we're just showing that that's an area that's directly behind the community center that we would look to improve. It is in floodplain, but the idea would be to improve it to allow it to be utilized as a multipurpose field.
So the residents would know that that's as far as they could go?
No, no, there'll be trails. I mean, they'll be able to access the entire conservation area and enjoy the nature. I'm just saying that it is a little confusing that the squared area is just what we're counting as part of the open space requirement. Yeah, because it overlaps with the floodplain and the conservation area. We're just trying to differentiate to show where we are getting our calculations.
It'll be kept up and mowed and
That would be
usable area.
that's the goal for that.
Exactly,
area, yeah.
whereas the C1 is, you don't know yet, it might put trails or whatever.
Right.
It's a little disturbing.
It's a nature area that would have, walking trails and light footprint, limited disturbance.
Mr. Rich, before you sit down.
Uh-huh.
This past spring, our staff went to Elkhorn Crossing School and worked with the students there on different design projects. And one of them was walkable space to schools. This development backs right up to 2 schools. I would really like to see you work with our staff and the school system to see about cutting a trails or walks through there so students could walk to school instead of having to get on a bus and ride around there, so.
Yeah, it has been a discussion point. I think if this was approved and moved forward, that'd be something.
Okay, great,
Yeah,
thank you.
Bill, we'd like to do that if the school board allows.
Yeah. All right, do we have,
If I may just add one thing.
yes, sir?
And kind of seeing a potential for a question that may come up. Obviously, in this PUD, in the rezone, we've identified some open space areas. Earlier tonight, we heard a case where what was previously conceptually planned for open space was redeveloped into, or it was planned to be redeveloped into townhouses. There may be some questions about what prevents this in an amount of time from coming back in front of us and then getting rezoned to additional housing units of some type or another. I would just like to point out that condition number 5 within this zoning application requires that protection of the open space and would not allow those particular areas to then be rezoned or repurposed in the future, because we do recognize that it's important to not just utilize open spaces as a land bank for later development, but actually as that long-term amenity for the community. And I'll just point out again, I think that this is an excellent example of how flexibility within a planning and development can be achieved. And then I'll add one other thing as we talk about this mix of housing types, which obviously will associate with the mix of housing price points. There's a quote that I love, I'm going to steal here, and it says, whether people move up or people move down, oftentimes they move out. By providing that mix of housing types and housing price points, the idea is that somebody can move up or somebody could downsize potentially, and they could stay in that neighborhood that they like. And I think that this does a great job in pursuing that goal as well.
Thank you.
Just gonna keep it going. I appreciate you, Mr. Mifflin, for reminding me. As always, I've got to put my 2 cents in about the schools. I contacted Billy Parker, superintendent, about a week or so ago. He's actually out of town currently. While we understand that any student anywhere in the county is a new student in the county, to increase the load on our schools, I just wanted to reach out as staff to let them know some of these new developments that are coming in. They were already aware of the previous plan in 2017 that Elise referred to as it being fully platted out. So those schools have accounted for that districting already. However, again, any new development we think is very important for the schools to be aware of. So we're bringing them in not only in accordance, keep them in line with this development, but others as well, especially given that there's some retirements in the system right now and they're kind of doing a restructuring as far as management of facilities, things of that nature. So to your points and concerns, the school systems are coming in here pretty soon before the start of the year just to discuss some different items of development.
Okay, great.
So,
And it looks like based off of the information in the packet, it would, estimated at least, it would be less students even though it's more units
presumably, you
based
know,
off the housing types.
right. I mean, different demographics typically, habitate differently. But again, it's always staff's goal to make sure that schools are aware.
No, I think it's great.
Yeah.
And I like the Chairman Mifflin, the walkable aspect that you brought up.
All right, do we have anyone that would like to address this body? If you would, when you come up here, state your name so that Mr. Perkins can mark you
David
off.
Childs, 122 Pinehurst Drive. We live across from Woodland Park. Yes. I was just kind of nominated by my wife and a few of our neighbors in opposition to the zone change due to the density issue. I hadn't seen the traffic survey at that point in time, but as I recall, in 2017, R2 was denied because of the density and what Route 25 can handle. And there hasn't been any changes in Route 25 other than the additional turning lanes because of the development. I'm just a country boy, but I don't understand how increased housing can decrease traffic. I guess you'd have to show me that one, but.
Just as soon as Mr. Childs gets through here.
Yeah, this is the association president, and he can probably talk about these issues a little bit more in depth. But I'm just thinking, you said earlier you didn't want people come up here and talk about stuff that's already been talked about. Well, this has been denied in 2017. The R2 was denied because of the density issue and because of what Route 25 can handle. There hasn't been any changes in that other than the additional turning lanes, which really aren't hardly wide enough anyway for what, when I'm going north, turning left into the subdivision, I see cars coming at me over the line. The width, I think the traffic engineers would be a good thing if they look into that issue. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
You bet.
Can staff speak to that?
Just before you say, come on up, I would just like to add, in 2017, was it denied?
Yes, it was denied in 2017.
Maybe the staff could expound on that and then we could hear more. I just try to connect the issues in my
R2 was
mind.
denied because they had a proposal for similar to what they've got now.
Okay.
And that was denied in single family residences were the only thing about it.
Yes, sir, if you'll state your name.
Okay, my name is Dennis Frommeyer, and I'm the president of the HOA at Stonehenge. And there's a couple of things that I've found. I went and got a packet from Elise the other day, and this traffic study that they've done. So they're basing that original on the original single families that they proposed, the 683, which is not what came about. They actually got 442 approved, 443 approved. So that traffic study is skewed from what it actually is, because they didn't have 683 units at 443.
So it's less.
So it's less. And so you can't take that traffic study for nothing. And then also in this proposal, let me get my glasses on so I can see. So it says that the original 443 units, and they have currently got, let me see here, 443 units, and the new proposal would knock it up to 594. And if you take that difference, 443, 594, that's 151 units total from what they've got in the first two phases plus this 385. So in their original, the 443, it says they've got 1,329 bedrooms. The new plan with the 594 units is 111, or 1,440. That's 111 bedrooms more than what they originally planned. That can't be right. If there's 151 extra units, how can there only be 111 more bedrooms?
Well, that's where the single family versus the duplexes might have one bedroom, whereas single family, maybe all of them have 2 or 3, I'm assuming.
Yeah, but I mean, that's still,
right?
there's still 40 bedrooms difference there that aren't accounted for. So where are they getting the difference in the bedrooms?
You're removing 240 single-family detached homes that are 3-bedroom homes and replacing them with 1-bedroom townhomes.
Okay. So, but our big concern is the traffic. You know, it was turned down in 2017 because of the traffic. And what you all approved earlier for Falls Creek, then you're gonna have that amount of traffic also added to what they're wanting to do. So that's just what I've got.
Thank you, Dennis, appreciate it.
Can we, what, yes. Sorry.
Yeah, 2017 versus today, what's the difference? It's really two different things. Number one, we do have a new comprehensive plan that, again, I think really enumerates the need for this mix of housing types. And number two, specifies what exactly that R2 zone can achieve or could achieve, or in this case, what it should achieve. The second thing is specifically, I do have the minutes from that meeting when it was denied. The R2 side of it was specifically denied due to a lack of detail shown in the concept plan. What we have, I think, tonight is a fantastic amount of detail that should allow this commission to review whether or not this would be appropriate. And so with lack of information, staff in 2017 made the right call. Don't move forward unless you know what you're actually looking at. I think, again, tonight staff's recommendation of approval fits the level of detail that's been provided for us to review.
Was there anything related to traffic on 25?
So there was concerns with the level of service, but again, that's associated with the lack of information provided. I'm going to let Ms. Zimmerman speak for her own traffic study. Staff obviously did our analysis, and we concur that there will not be a decrease in the level of service provided 2017 versus today.
Thank you much. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't sign up to speak, but would I be allowed to say?
Just, you can stand up and get yourself sworn in.
Your name, please?
Shannon True.
Shannon True?
Mm-hmm.
Do you swear or affirm?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, I also live in Stonehenge. I live at 102 Pinehurst Drive. I also work at Scott County High School, which is right behind our subdivision. Just to reiterate the whole traffic issue, I live in Stonehenge. I work at Scott County High School. It takes me anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes to get home from work. So I don't know if that's a problem for somebody, but for me it is when I live 2 minutes from my house. So I'm just want to say that. Sometimes it's a little longer. It just depends on what's going on, but it's just an issue, and I don't think adding more houses at Falls Creek and more houses at Woodland Park and
more apartments here and more townhouses there that are just gonna add more people is gonna make that any easier or better. So just a thought, or just a thing I wanted to say.
Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else? Ms. Zimmerman, do you need to explain anything about the traffic study? It's like deer in the headlights when you start.
Maybe you can hit on Mr. Bromeyer's point relative to the,
I was
600.
in the room when you.
Oh, do you swear or affirm?
Yes, I do, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
So Diane Zimmerman, 12803 High Meadows Pike in Prospect, Kentucky. I prepared the traffic impact study. I did both the 2017 and the 2025 version of it. The difference in the trip generation is completely related to the types of units and the sizes of those units. It's also mirrored in the school count, apparently. I wasn't privy to that information beforehand, but you can, right, if you don't have children in the household, you're not making nearly as many trips as if you're a single person or a young professional couples, or if once you progress to the other side where you're downsizing, you're not going in and out at peak hours intentionally. So that is reflected in the trip generation. One of the big things in my mind when I started working on this traffic impact study was when I did the one in 2017, we did not know what the impact of Great Crossing High School was going to be. And the movement of the high school from one corner to the other, that has completely changed the traffic pattern, the times of day, how many cars are turning, and that type of thing. So it has been really a significant change at that intersection, and therefore the intersection will operate at about the same way it does today. So I'd be happy to answer anything specific, but I think that's a nice summary.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Well, step right up here and ask it.
I'm just wondering, my name's Kimberly. And I live at Woodland Park also. And I was just wondering, if we don't know which homes are gonna be owner occupied versus rental, how do we know who's living in them? So how can we say they're not gonna have children, they're not gonna have, you know what I'm saying? If we don't know if they're even gonna be owner occupied versus rental, how can we make that assumption as to what that first specific, family is doing as far as in and out?
I think what they were saying was a single-family house with 3 bedrooms likely to have children, whereas a 1-bedroom townhouse or a 1 or 2-bedroom apartment is not going to have that many children, as many as a single-family housing. And whether it's rented or bought, that, you know, the size of the bedroom doesn't change.
and I think it was tied back to the 2017 study by the home builders, National Association of Home Builders, right? That's where the data came from, at least, that said the mix of students that I was referring to in terms of numbers, being lower for numbers of students.
Yeah, there's national standards for trip generation based upon unit type, size, that sort of thing. So he was talking earlier about Chick-fil-A versus you know, the multifamily or the townhomes. I mean, those are 2 totally different uses and therefore 2 totally different trip generations.
Although they're on the same size lot.
Yeah,
that has nothing to do
It's
with it.
apples and oranges. We
Yeah.
don't look at it that way. We have single-family detached homes. There's a standard attached to that. We have single-family attached homes, as in the townhomes, duplexes. Those have a standard attached. Apartments have a standard attached, and so on. And then, as mentioned, the National Home Builders Association has data as it relates to the typical occupants. That's used for that, but for the traffic study, that's based on national standards that are used in the traffic models. So it's not assumptions, it's based on, I don't know, the actual data, decades worth of that.
Okay. I just feel like that's hard to understand, like I said, if we don't know
if they're gonna be owner occupied. We've all seen places where we just pour as many people, students renting properties, things like that, pour as many people into one home as we could. So I feel like that would be hard to come up with a number when you don't know who's gonna be living in the home versus whether it's 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. They might have 3 or 4 living in a room, you know what I'm saying? I think that would be a hard number to come up with, is my only thing.
I'd like to clarify a couple of things. That this is not, it's probably obvious, but this is not designed as student housing. And where do the numbers come from about how many traffic trips are generated? As Ms. Diane could correct me if I'm wrong, but the Institute of Traffic Engineers consists of traffic engineers throughout the country who report actual counts and actual studies based upon projects in their communities. That information is compiled into national data, and it's the governing factor is not rental versus own. The governing factor is what type of housing type it is, for the reasons we have mentioned here, that if you're choosing a single-family home to buy or rent, it's a lot more likely that you're with children. You have children at that point because you want to have the single-family home for children. The data on number of students generated clearly showed there were fewer students. These are 5 to 18-year-old students. And what we submitted was a 2017 study by the National Association of Home Builders, but I want to emphasize that study was a compilation of United States Census numbers. The Home Builders study was just looking at those and coming up with what are the averages. The averages I used were Kentucky. That report came up with the number of students generated per housing type for every state. So in that report, I used Kentucky. So it's based on United States Census figures compiled by the National Association of Home Builders, and clearly showed that what we're proposing here generates fewer students than what we had proposed and approved as single family on phase 3 back in 2017.
Thank you. The gentleman right behind you stood up to.
My name's Alan Showalter.
I'm sorry. Do you swear or affirm?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
One thing that I noticed that they said is like Toyota's expanding. Toyota's average starting salary is, I think there's a study, it's 57% higher than the average salary of a single family owner. Do you think a Toyota employee with a family would rather live in an apartment that is, I mean, I don't know what everybody pays for their mortgage, but on average, you're paying more for an apartment than you are for a single family home, especially because Toyota helps with relocation as well. So I think that's something you got to think about. I mean, Toyota's growing, yes, it's the automotive industry. And I think that has to play a part in why we're getting apartments instead of single family homes when most employees at Toyota are starting careers and lives in this area of Georgetown.
I would say the vast majority of people at Toyota that have been there 5 years or less probably rent. Toyota doesn't actually help with relocation for production team members, which of course is 80% of their population.
Okay.
And I think with, just speaking with the current economy and interest rates, I think that has seen certainly a shift much more towards apartment dwellings, just based off what people can afford.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Gail Martin, and I just bought at 118 White Owl Lane, and I'm a retired nurse from
Where is that
Ohio.
relative to?
Huh?
Is it, can you show us where you are
It's one of the
relative?
main roads going.
Oh, it's, I was trying to find it. It's phase,
It's
Oh, there it is.
First street, isn't
phase
it?
2.
The first street on the bottom?
So those apartments. are
Got it,
gonna be
okay, all right.
But on behalf of all of us who bought in phase 1, phase 2, and in these inflated real estate days where we paid a good amount of money, my question is, I'm gonna talk about money. You know, we've talked about traffic, we've talked about, you know, density, and I learned a lot, but money. Will there be a rental, is there a range of rent? Like, we all paid close to $300,000, and to me, a single person who worked all her life, that's a lot of money. I'm retired, I'm on a fixed income. I'm good, but I want to protect it. I don't have to grow it a lot, but I want to protect it. Now, rentals, is there a range? Yes. Is there a rental range? Yeah, I haven't.
Ma'am, if you could come back up here
All right.
and continue your question.
So my question is, consider those who have bought in your final decision, those of us who have bought in phase 1, phase 2, made a significant purchase. In times, hopefully the value will go up. I mean, I think it will, I'm confident. But just really consider with the townhomes, we don't even know how many owner-occupied we're gonna have versus rentals. Just consider protecting, making decisions for the whole group. Does that make sense?
Well, I think that's a question you need to be addressing to the developer, and not to us.
Okay.
We're here to design, and this isn't the forum to do
Yeah, but
that. As your homeowner, do you have a homeowner association?
Yes.
You need to be talking with them about that.
You're talking about a developer. Yeah, it's not, we have no say.
It's the developer.
We have no say.
right now, 3 years.
It doesn't work that doesn't work. But anyway, I mean, you know, I just.
But that's not what we're here for tonight. I understand your concern, but we're here, does this fall within the parameters of the design that the comprehensive plan puts forward? That's what we're here for tonight there. And I don't mean to undermine what you're trying to say, but it's not our problem tonight. It's not what
Well, you
we're.
are looking at changing to R2, so you are looking at.
You're exactly right, but the value of the house, I mean, it's.
Yeah, but you know how that is when you.
No, I don't know how that is. I know that my houses that I've bought over the years have all increased in value.
And wait a minute, I moved here from Middletown, Ohio, Mason and Westchester, Four Bridges, a lot of the Homerama associations did that. They have been very successful. And that's my question, rather than to you, to them, rental, do you have a rent, or do you have, I mean, money? I mean, I would hate to see those apartments rent for $1,500 a month. I mean, honestly.
I have no
$1,000 a
control
month.
over what a house sells for,
Okay.
or how much an
Well,
apartment
I'm not
is.
asking you, ask them.
Well, but that's not, you need to be asking them out in the hall
Oh,
or tomorrow
okay.
afternoon. We're here to
All right.
discuss this zoning change.
Charlie, if I could though, just throw one thing out.
Yeah.
We have brought in here, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apartments, all of them are rentals, and they charge, at least seems to be, exorbitant amounts, and they fill up immediately every time, and yet, every year, our property values go up. I can't imagine anybody has suffered a diminution in their property values because of rentals or apartments. Because I know mine's gone up every year for I don't know how many years, well, not every year, but every couple of years, for as long as I can remember. We have got, except maybe for Lexington, some of the highest property values in this whole part of the state. And yet we've got thousands of apartments and we've got thousands of renters, and that simply has not made an impact.
Yep.
And I can't imagine this one's going to.
The Colony is a good example that we talked about earlier, right? In terms of all the apartments that have been added to it, and certainly the property values have gone up there. And the only thing, because it's not relevant to this discussion, but I will say, I would think the community center and all of the amenities that are being added certainly would help property values improve over time as well. But that's just my comment, my supposition.
And I know I
don't have
said
any
that,
doubt.
but did I hear you say phase one, phase two will get the amenities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you said that.
Yes, ma'am.
I need to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm?
Yes, I do.
And what's your name?
My name is Kathy Litton.
Thank you.
I live at 123 Pebble Beach Drive, and I just have two questions. One, are the apartments going to be multi-level, or are they just single level? How many levels? All right, so when I come out Pinehurst and I look across, I'm gonna see a three-level.
It's right
That's in
across
Stonehenge.
25, across Cincinnati Pike.
No,
No,
the
you're not.
the elevation change, yeah, you won't. The elevation change just from the last row of homes down to where the apartments are located is a significant drop in the, or as of right now, it's, we're constantly, we haven't advanced beyond.
So I wouldn't know the apartments are multi-level.
No, from the street, they'll look like the two-level homes.
Okay. And then I just have one comment. As a former teacher, I understand the significance of paths to get from the dwelling to the school. But folks, you've got kids coming across your lawn, you have insurance problems. It's something, please think about. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Now's your time to speak up if you,
I'd like to make one more comment.
yes, ma'am.
Like I said, I worked at Scott County High School. I've been there for 20 years. And I worked when we were in the old building, which connected to Colony. And we had that pass that went through to get you from Scott Middle or Scott County High School. Kids traveled it all the time during school, after school, before school. Kids would leave school, go through there and go to people's houses. We'd have to get the police to go get them. Happened all the time. And like I said, I've been at Scott County High School for 20 years. Happened all the time. And it was a big issue. And I can't imagine, I know it's Royal Spring Middle School, but, and Mason Elementary, but still, it's a middle school and it can be an issue. And it was an issue for us, a big issue. We had cops jumping fences, chasing kids, assistant principals, all the time. So it happens, just so you know. Just want to say
For the
that.
person doing minutes, you're Miss True, right?
I'm Miss True, yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Me,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Sherry Greer, Square Medium.
Oh,
I'm so glad that Kathy brought that up and Shannon brought that up about walking to the schools. That's
Do you swear or
been
affirm?
bothering me. I swore first.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry.
You already did. But anyway, I wanted to bring it up, so I'm in there too.
Well,
I think it's a dangerous situation.
So is the preference to not have a connection to the school?
Yes.
Yeah,
I walked to school from the first grade all the way to the 12th grade. I never rode to school.
Look, Kathy, can I just add this? I would think having a, can I just, well, we have a form that backs up to the Colony, and there were kids that trespassed across it all the time. Let me just say, I would think that having an actual walking path would minimize the trespassing through property, right? So I don't have a dog in the fight, just a comment on it.
We do not have a connection to the school.
Yeah.
It's not shown on the plan.
No, it's not even on here.
It's not on here.
The requirement is for fence and
Yeah.
landscaping, so there would be a physical barrier unless you want it.
Yeah.
For the purposes of the record and for the respect of everybody else, we really do need people coming up and reducing the crowd noise. It is very difficult for us to contain and maintain a consistent, high-quality record that we strive to attain in all of our meetings. So, out of
Thank
respect for everybody else, please,
Thank you.
if we can.
Last call. Anybody else have anything to say or questions to ask? All right. I will now close the public hearing. Thank you for all your input, and I will look for a motion.
I will make a motion for approval of ZMA 2025-29. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong one, sorry.
No, 22.
I was
ZMA.
down into new business, excuse me, ZMA 2025-22,
Right.
Yeah. And based upon the staff report.
based on the staff report. And,
That's, well, that's right, that's.
sure, now's the time, so we don't have to redo it next month.
That's good.
I'll second
it.
I have a motion, I have a second by Mr. James Stone. Ms. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
No.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
No.
Ms. Adair,
No.
and the chair votes yes. That passes 4-3. Mr. Murphy, you'll see Mr. Perkins. I don't know. Elise, do you record for the record commissioners that aren't here each month?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need to say it, or is it just a,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
is there,
that.
do we need to say it for the official record, or is it just, sometimes we do, I don't know that we all the time, just a question.
And typically, like, we take attendance, but the attendance at the beginning of the meeting, we have so I would say yes, that it is record recorded appropriately, and we
I'm sorry. It shouldn't be long, but I've been holding this on.
We'll let everybody get out.
That'll take me, maybe I'll be back.
We don't have anything.
If you would, take your discussion out in the hall so we can continue on in here, please. Thank you for your consideration.
There's a lot of communities like that, but you know.
Do we need to recess and leave? We've had at least one.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna recess for 5 minutes or so, or until, say 8:50.
We've mentioned Chick-fil-A twice tonight. I haven't had a chicken sandwich yet. Come on, man.
Least David could do is bring supper.
Some chicken nuggets or something.
That's exactly.
Let's see where I stand here. That's what I don't understand. I didn't know that was we all know this was coming. The day we sit in June, Walter Lane College stood up there and said, hey, Toyota's coming in, and you're going to get a job there at Practice Town. You get first deal. Bull crap.
Big pep rally.
Oh, yeah. Big deal. No, what year was that? I know. 85. Well, you soft, I was sophomore, you was freshman.
That's crazy.
Didn't you remember that? Well, the funny part about that is I play golf with a guy And on my golf ball, it's says 71. I got a personalized number. He said, "What's up, man?" I said, "That's the year I was born." He said, "It's the year I graduated." So what you just said is back in my face. I can't wait to tell him. He'll get a kick out of that.
That's all I dropped out of college. Actually, I guess that was 72.
Hey, Elise, does this replace all of this?
When you and I were, just take the middle school. When we were in middle
That's
school,
better. Yeah, that's much better.
everybody knew,
All right, so I can
everybody
probably
knew
just trash this.
everything. Pretty much.
Thank you.
May not know
I
a
think
person,
it's-
but you knew about everybody.
Yeah, it's all your stuff.
And now you
Knew the families in there.
yeah,
This paper
and now
like
you
this,
got
RV
people
stuff.
coming in.
Okay, I'll give you all that back. That way this will actually fit in the
You're
envelope.
buying a development,
Thank you.
but when you're buying in phase one,
I know, I
when
love that.
phase three takes effect.
I can bring my own binder back if y'all want a recycled binder.
Yeah, so, but you come to this town to get a job. That don't make sense.
Well, now everybody's coming in because it's too expensive to live somewhere else, so we're just driving.
But keep in mind, it's far more expensive here than anywhere around here except Lexington.
Yeah, and it's getting.
And go to some of those places and say, do I want to live there or do I want to live in Georgetown? You can come to Georgetown.
Well, you have choices of Paris, and they're not allowing any development in Paris, and something else, they don't do it. What's that? What's that?
No, more than that. More than that, yeah, more than that, yeah. Everywhere. I mean, just like even Owen County, in Scott, Owen County, you could buy that land down there for $500 an acre. Now they get $3,000 for a hillside rock.
I don't know, honestly, to the.
Because it's close to Scott County.
Twitter, people coming in and drop off houses, they can't afford it.
No.
I don't know.
Not anymore.
Like if we hadn't been in the market for 28 years now,
Yeah.
I'm buying a house tomorrow in a neighborhood up here across from Food Tech and all that. And Kevin Bradley, that buddy of mine, said the rent in that neighborhood is $1,700 a month.
Which is just
It's a shot.
ridiculous.
it is. I mean, I think mine and John's first mortgage was about $900 a month.
And
You know what I paid?
here's where we're making it all worse and we can't help it. We're building a bunch of money. So the way you get prices down for single family homes is you build more homes. But the developers don't want to build those. They want to build that. But we don't have a choice.
I didn't know how.
But if there were more of them, I'm not saying this. There's no way to fix it. There's no answer. There's no way to fix it. No.
You should have kept it. Would you have ever believed you could sell it? No.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, if you move in like that, it's all right.
Just say 10 years ago.
I mean, I like the development.
Talk about that a minute ago.
Get you a job at Toyota. Now they're begging you to come and work at Toyota.
Indian Hills,
Pay at Toyota
when it opened up off of
that much greater than you pay everywhere else.
Clayton on one side, it starts up.
But what 21-year-old?
Oh my gosh, because that would have been in the town if I could talk about it.
There was a farm up there.
Let's get her done. So we can get out of here before midnight this week.
What are you doing, John?
Hopefully John Woodall will take I would never thought I would say this, but hopefully Mr. Woodall will take the same stance that Mr. Billings did.
Yeah, I agree.
I would never put you two in the same boat, but.
Guess what? There's going to be two.
Yeah,
This is easier.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right, the next item is ZMA 2025-21, Marketplace at Frankfurt Pike.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Public hearing, right?
And this-
Public hearing.
Yeah, this is a public hearing also. Open that public hearing.
Okay, so again, this is a zoning map amendment request for two separate parcels that are adjacent to a larger development known as the Marketplace of Frankfurt Pike. This rezone before you is essentially a housekeeping and consolidation type operation here. It's two parcels just under an acre each. They're both A1 currently. They are seeking to be zoned B2 highway commercial. Again, essentially this is an acquisition of land for an alignment of an access easement off US 460, as well as just grabbing the last remaining parcel there on the corner at McClellan and 460. Here are the two parcels in question. The current zone, again, both being A1 for those. The rest of the development zoned as is. This is a larger plat of the development as proposed, just kind of showing the orientation of all the separate parcels. Again, just a little more description here of how these parcels are to play into the development. Again, the one there to the east was previously owned by the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. I believe at some time they had a field office there for the construction, the bypass and the improvement of the intersection there with 460. And up there to the west, this parcel will serve as an entrance as designed and necessitated by, again, the Transportation Cabinet to serve the larger development to the south and east. The parcels of question, again, adjoin an approximately 50-acre development known as Marketplace of Frankfurt Pike. The original development here was rezoned in 2008. The preliminary development plan shows the improvements to be made to the site were improved in November of '24. These parcels, however, have not been annexed yet, so if this zone change is approved, they will have to go through that process with the City of Georgetown. We've already discussed that these are proposed to be Zone B2, access, consolidation into the larger development. I believe I've pretty well discussed all this. As of right now, the parcel at the corner of 460 and McClellan, no structures or improvements are proposed. In fact, on the development plan, it shows agricultural parcel. What other future intentions, I'll yield to these gentlemen here. Traffic study was conducted as part of the development plan process back in 2024. With the size and purpose of these two parcels, a new study was not warranted. One thing that does play in at this time, if the western parcel is rezoned and consolidated into the development, it will still adjoin A1 parcels. The appropriate buffering there will be necessary. As per our landscape ordinance, everybody's pretty familiar with our 6-foot fence, etc. Again, as Elise spoke before, we do look towards the state statute as well as comprehensive plan and future land use map to guide us and yourselves in the decisions that we make as far as zoning map amendment requests go. And here is an overlay of these parcels in question with our future land use map. The entirety of this corner here is, again, designated future land use commercial. It was originally rezoned in 2008. Previous comp plans and up to the one now obviously have always imagined that this would be the case for these parcels. Again, our future land use map for 24 does show the most appropriate land use to be commercial. Proposed B2 zoning for the property is appropriate for this future land use designation. Finally, the proposed amendment is in alignment with the text of the 24 comprehensive plan. Therefore, Part 1 of the state statute applies. We need not consider subsections A or B. And then again, based on the findings of state statute, comprehensive plan, future land use map, et cetera, staff does recommend approval, subject to our 4 standard conditions of approval for zoning map amendment requests. Most notably, if the development does not proceed within 3 years of approval of the zoning map amendment request, the board and commission have the ability to revert the zone back to A1 or anything else down zone that may be appropriate. I don't believe I have anything else at this time, unless that was too quick for you. I'll yield to these folks over here.
We discussed it Monday at the workshop, and it's, like you said, administrative to bring these two.
And I have received the plat to that parcel of the northwest to begin the process of dividing it off the larger farm to consolidate it to the east. Still going through the edits at this time, but the proper other things that need to happen to consolidate our
You
motion.
say that was the Kentucky State Transportation.
The
made that
one
happen.
at the corner of McClellan and 460 was the transportation cabinet.
No, but
The
they
one
made,
in-
they made the other one, had to happen because of that, they made them do that. Made
Yes,
them.
yeah, I believe that's appropriate for the alignment of the entrance, just to keep it straight across from the other access and not create any new entrances. So they're gonna adopt that entrance there. I presume, it's actually one of my requests is review of the plat, that there need be an access easement and maintenance agreement created, because that access still serves the farm behind it. So there's gonna have to be some sort of access and maintenance agreement, but that's plat problems, not zone change problems.
Gotcha. Any other questions for Rhett? Do you all have anything to add?
Mike Leonard with Hogan and Mike Hill with Land Design and Development, John Woodall with them. I agree. So,
All right.
you know,
Yeah.
We,
2 out of 2.
You all were kind enough to approve the development plan for this, as Rhett said, in November. And Mike has us on every other week call to make sure that everybody's doing their assigned task for this and Georgetown Commons. And I don't think I'm on the naughty list right now, till you get there. But after you all approved this development plan, we kind of knew that this was going to be required by one of the proposed vendors, and so then they proceeded to go acquire this, the Jennings, part of that Jennings property and then the DOT property. So that's what you're seeing here. We're just having to keep some promises. That's what it is.
All right, thank you. And any other questions, comments? Close the public hearing, and I will take a motion.
I will make a motion.
Man, you've been
Approval.
hot
I
tonight.
just, you know what, might as well keep going. You gonna keep your 0-3 streak going?
Motion Gerwin.
CMA 2025-29.
I'll take a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Vest?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. All right. And the only other thing, we've got a couple more items. Hold on, guys. Text amendment ZOTA 2025-03, House Bill 443, reformatting. And this too is a public hearing, so I will open said hearing.
Okay.
Here's your pen.
So as we move into this next phase, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. In preparing the document tonight, I'd like to point out our senior planner, Elise Ketz over here, who did an incredible amount of work formatting, compiling, editing, analyzing, reviewing, re-reviewing, and basically being the steward of this project from start to finish. Also got to look at the remainder of the staff over here. Everybody that you see lined up right here played a role in getting this document together. And it is a tremendous document, so much so that we've given you a separate folder that just has that document. That's a souvenir. You guys can take that with you. Why? Why did we give its own document? As we discussed at last month's meeting with House Bill 443 going into effect, now ratified as a KRS 100 in there somewhere. Anytime a subdivision plat comes through or a preliminary development plan comes across our desk that meets our standards and requirements, we are required to review it ministerially against clear and concise standards. What you have in front of us is our best attempt at making sure those standards are as readily and easily reviewed, applied, and understood for both staff and the public as we can be. What we're going to ask of you tonight is to actually take 4 separate votes. And it seems like a lot, but it's important to realize that the work that we do here tonight will then be forwarded on to the city of Georgetown, Scott County Fiscal Court for their review. And so for the record, and for their sake, we're trying to separate it out into manageable, understandable chunks. And so 25-03, that's specifically to the ordinance renumbering and reformatting. That alone is a huge lift that we've done. 2504 is our zoning ordinance PUD regulations. We reviewed a PUD tonight. One of the things that we talked about was that 10% open space and making sure that's preserved. We've now actually codified that specific requirement in this code, as well as kind of what you can expect by entering into a PUD, the benefits for the applicant, where we stand strong and where we're willing to be flexible. To be clear and put it on the record here, because it will come forward later, in doing a PUD, we do not vary the density. We can vary lot sizes, we can vary setbacks, we can vary lot coverage, but we do not vary density. The PUD, as it stands now, moving forward, will not vary the density. That's dictated by the underlying zone. Number 6, I'll jump to that. Subdivision and development regulations, renumber and reformat. Ben spends a lot of times in the subdivision regulations. It's a very dense part of our code, but it's required for any sort of development, as again came up multiple times tonight. When somebody goes from preliminary on towards final, they're not just looking at the zoning ordinance, they're looking at the specific subdivision and development regulations. We need a document that's easily understood and applied so that we can be successful in our job, and so that, again, the public at large can easily understand what it is developers are being asked of, and then, again, how we apply that. And then, Elise, I'm going to look at you. Remind me. Number 5, there's zoning ordinance Article 4. Article 4 specifically deals with.
That's the specific zone district section. We can go into more detail if you guys feel so inclined, or I'll give a summary about it. But it is essentially restructuring several of our zones to a more straightforward process. If you guys want, I can look by the. I was going to get there, but I appreciate it. Several zones we determined were repetitive or were unclear on their intent, and so we went through, added intent statements. We also, after discussion internally, discussion with the agricultural stakeholders group, identified that the A5 zone, while it has its moments, it is really not as much an agricultural zone in that effect. It is identifying a very low density rural residential use, hence why, and so forth, it would be known as the RR zone, which is our rural residential zone. It will be migrated out of the agricultural consideration into the RR, into the residential subtypes as like a large lot rural use zone. We'll be working more with fiscal court, with their guidance, with your guys' guidance regarding that zone and how it can proceed going forward. But we believe that this was the appropriate first step in modernizing that zone and in putting it where we believe it belongs. I will also highlight, I incorporated as well the conservation district stuff with the protection of historic and culturally significant areas, incorporated that as part of it. Cleaned up a couple of things here and there. And then the last one is our professional office zone. I don't know if anybody's aware of it, but we have 2 professional office zones with near identical uses. The P1 and the P1B, same name, very few areas where it's been applied. It was, after review and discussion, it was determined that they should be consolidated into one professional office zone because they are so identical to one another, as well as giving them a more appropriate name that describes the uses that are going on in the zone. So I believe the new name for it, as opposed to being professional office, is professional and community services. So that includes schools, churches, libraries, as well as the professional services, so that those providers that are not doing as much sale, but actually like medical offices, law support, engineers, those types of units, kind of trying to modernize that as well to kind of encourage, hopefully, its use more often than not. Because it is not a frequently used zone. I've
Cardone, the hospital, and the old airport site off of, in the middle of the town are really the big pockets of the P1 zone. And so just hopefully trying to get people to use a little bit more of it would be the goal for that one.
I'm going to touch a little bit more on what we're going to henceforth call the RR zone as well. The uses that were previously allowed in the A5 zone will still be allowed in the RR zone, so the uses are not changing there. Another question that may come up, not specifically related to zoning, is, well, what about my tax designation? Our office does not apply nor administer any of the tax codes. And so if for the purposes of your taxes, it's a agricultural zone because you have the acreage or whatever that requirement is, our intent is not to mess with that. What it is intended, though, is within our comprehensive plan as it stands, anytime there's a pattern of 5-acre development in a rural agricultural area, we ask that it be rezoned, and then we have certain standards that it has to be applied against. It is very confusing to rezone from one agricultural zone to another agricultural zone with the same uses, but has additional development standards. And so I think by just clarifying that from a use perspective, there is a difference between a true A1 agricultural lot and this A5 pattern of development, that we can begin actually utilizing something that's been in our code for a long, long time. This is where I'm going to turn it over to you guys, though. I gave you guys some homework at the Planning Commission workshop to see if there was anything else that you believe should be changed or any standards that you would like to see modified in accordance with House Bill 443. Understanding, again, that already we are beginning to review applications ministerially, and so we need to make sure that our regulations are clear and how we apply them. And if not, I think we got it.
Okay. We could come back at any time and go, hey, I found this one thing, and can we change that? We could pick out a line item somewhere down the road.
Let me tell you my personal preference on this. And this is you get to the Holden Fleming School of Planning. Even number years, small changes, little things. Odd number years, big changes, big foundational things. And so, yes, if we can get a running tally of let's tweak this, let's tweak this, let's tweak this, we can work on all of those. What it requires, though, is every time, again, that we make a change here, we've got to go to the other legislative bodies. We've got to get their buy-in. We're more than happy to provide that information. The flip side, though, and why you don't want major changes all the time, is consistency for the community that this document is supposed to serve. If they read it one year and they come back the next year and it's totally different, that doesn't build goodwill. So yes, I love small changes.
Just because I hadn't got a chance to read through all of them.
All 200 pages? Yeah.
I like the tabs.
Okay.
So we need to vote on each of these individually, is that what you're saying?
So to be clear, did we open the public hearing?
Yeah, we opened it, yeah. We
Okay.
need to close it to vote.
Yes, close and vote on all,
So you're through with everything you have to say?
unless you got anything else for me.
All right, the public hearing is closed, and my question again, the voting process is each individual,
Yes, if it pleases the board, vote for each one.
all right?
I'm not making a single motion. It's all y'all.
Motion, girls, quit.
Let me ask you this, Ben's, it's
You
coming,
just sit here till I do it, won't you?
Ben's, it's coming from the staff.
Yeah.
You're making a recommendation that we approve it, so do we need a recommendation
Oh,
from?
yeah, you've got to have motion, second, roll call vote.
A roll call vote?
Yeah. And yes, I think you need one on each of the subsections that they present.
Can we start on that?
And Mr. Perkins, again, just to clarify, the recommendation is to adopt the new ordinances as proposed, repealing the old ordinances where applicable in line with new state statutes. That would be our findings for this. Okay.
All right, this is for, all three.
Well,
25, or 2025-03. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second. A set by DeJuan Garrett. Ms. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Adair,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. And the next one is, thank you.
Well, I'll make a motion. We adopt 2025-04 zoning ordinance PUD regulations.
I have David Vest.
Gotta go tag team.
Brad had my back, so I had to do that.
Neither of y'all ever had my back. You don't even vote yes.
Use the motion, girl.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Adair,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Ms. Singer,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
He does. He does.
All right, I need a motion for 2025-05.
Make a motion that you adopt 2025-05.
I second.
All right.
She jumped right in there, didn't she?
You did.
Motion, your voice is so loud.
Keeping my mouth shut. I never keep my mouth shut. What are you talking about?
Come on, no lie.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Adair,
Yes.
Ms. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
and the chair votes
Mr.
yes.
Stone, we should have rearranged the name tags and let you move closer to us. I'm feeling sorry for you.
Y'all
down
didn't
there.
want me near you.
I thought that the whole
No,
time.
I was just telling David how much I love me some James Stone.
And the last one is 2025-06.
Motion. For approval.
Motion by Mr. Vest,
Second.
Ms. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Adair,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. All right. Then do we need to do anything with the RV?
Yes. Yeah. The one thing you have to do is talk to us about it. I believe we do have one member of the public here to provide some comments up front as well. So let me kind of recap the history on this one just a little bit. About 7 months ago at this point, Scott County Fiscal Court was sued over the adoption process of our last approved RV ordinance as part of a, agreed judgment?
Yeah, that's good.
An agreed judgment. That RV ordinance was vacated, and then Scott County immediately entered into a 6-month development moratorium for all RV campground proposals. At the exact same time, staff engaged a number of stakeholders in the conversation of basically reviewing our existing RV ordinance and then seeing if changes were to be made, what changes would we like to see. And as a part of that too, also looking at how we could then better incorporate RVs into our zoning ordinance. And so what was provided to this commission at the workshop was a copy of that draft, which is where it stands today. Ideally, with input provided at tonight's meeting, as well as input that we will receive in the coming weeks, we would like to schedule a formal public hearing over this RV ordinance so that we can then forward that on to fiscal court. And again, if we have the hearing next month, in the weeks following that. I want to point out just a couple things that are within this document that I think I want to highlight and are important. Within the existing A1 or Agricultural 1 recreational zone, there is a requirement, or rather a standard, that these A1R uses cannot take place in zones where farmlands of statewide importance are prevalent. That language has been applied to the applicability section of this document to, instead of having it be prevalent, instead the language now reads, only those lands with less than 50% collective prime farmlands and farmlands of statewide importance may be considered for this use. If anybody's ever taken a look at the soils map of Scott County, you know there's a pretty strong north-south divide. Mm-hmm. And if you are a property below that line, it is very likely that you would surpass that 50% metric in a hurry. If you're above that line, you're likely to not have that come into effect. But that language was important to the community when the A1R zone was adopted, and with the limited number of stakeholders that we've engaged thus far in the creation of this draft, that language was important to them as well. And so, again, in the idea of maybe being, prevalent's a funny word. What does prevalent mean? You can have some interpretation there. So we thought it might be a little bit easier for the community just to understand that we're going to call it 50% or more. Another great thing that actually falls immediately after that is kind of this understanding that if we are going to place RV parks in our community, which, to be forthright, I don't want to create an ordinance that is a barrier so hard that no one's able to get over it. And while we say we've got an ordinance on the book, what we've actually done is outlaw RV parks across the county. What we have done, though, is create a sliding scale where we understand that not all roads are going to be the same, and not all developments can handle the same number of RVs. And so we felt it was inappropriate to just have a carte blanche level of density for RV parks across the county. Instead, what we've tried to do is design some sort of sliding scale, wherein your infrastructure, as it increases, as there's more natural capacity for RVs, you can have more units. If you are on a small road with no public sewer, you're going to get fewer RVs. And so those are two things that I anticipate needing to talk about in more depth, that 50% requirement, and then how we fine-tune the number of RVs that could or should be allowed in any particular development location. And then finally, again, understanding that if we write an ordinance trying to prohibit one user from going into one spot, we will have been ineffective at creating an ordinance that is generally applicable across the county. And so as we fine-tune this and we move forward, we need to consider those potential impacts. Any questions? Any comments?
Say that one more time.
Yeah, sure thing. From the top.
All of it, just the end. The part,
yeah.
You lost me.
Yes. If at any point staff writes any ordinance with the idea of targeting one development in particular, we will have failed in our ability to write an ordinance that is generally applicable across the county. So we did not write this with one development in mind.
Right.
We wrote this trying to keep any future development in line.
Gotcha.
But the thing of it is, me personally, as a camper, a guy that camps, I wouldn't want a campground in the middle of Georgetown. You would want it more rural off of a good road. But most places aren't zoned for something like that. And it's probably not on the future land use map either, like the one that we talked about, Midway Road.
Yeah.
Which, everybody's against RV parks. but they are coming this way. So with all this development, you know it's gonna go, something has to go in towards Sadieville Stamping Ground area versus here, cause there's gonna be nothing left here, a place to put one. So, if a person comes to me and says, hey, I wanna start an RV park, they're gonna have to come to see you and possibly get a rezoning and all that. And is this gonna make it easier? The process I'm talking about, not the approval.
Maybe clearer.
Clear, absolutely.
And that makes it.
Yeah, ideally, yeah.
You'll know from the outset what the guidelines are, what you're dealing with.
Anytime we work on an ordinance, and this is a collaborative process, from staff to the planning commission to the public, we need to figure out what regulations will actually get us to where we want to go. And so I think that this is a great step in that direction. Now, this is the other thing, though. Rhett, sitting at those stakeholder meetings, we probably had 8 people around the table. That's 8 out of 40,000. You know, that's 8 out of 60,000 in Scott
Was
County.
Mr. Cornett there?
Yes. Yes, he was.
I don't have a dog in this fight.
Huh?
I don't have a dog in this fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, he always says.
Oh,
I don't have a
yeah.
dog in this fight. Every time.
He owns the best place.
Sorry,
in the country
sorry.
for an RV park.
So to this,
Cornett.
Cornett, yeah.
If-
And Brad, that nice lake out there.
with Mr. Vest's comments, this idea that people do want to be able to develop these RV parks, it very much speaks to the importance of getting this right. Because when they do come, as we've talked tonight, we can hold them to no standard greater than what we enumerate in this document. At the same time, can't cut them any breaks either. And so, as we look at a generally applicable ordinance, you guys' input is very, very important. That's all I want to say about this right now. But I do, again, I know there's someone from the public who would like to talk, and I think that'd be appropriate. Yes?
Yes, Mr. Murphy.
Different Dick Murphy than the Midway one.
I do want to say something briefly, from understanding our local context on RV campgrounds. I've been here with all the circumstances elsewhere on the county line, but I do want to indicate one thing on like the importance of having this requirement. As it stands, prior to all of this, specifically Whispering Hills RV Campground, that is operating under a use permit granted by the Board of Adjustment for Scott County. It's not like I'm gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry, but it is under a use permit for the Board of Adjustment for Scott County, and that they just showed up and asked for what they asked for. The densities were not set, the ratios were not established. It just said, I would like a public-private recreational area use permit, and they just came in and they reviewed it and all that stuff. And of course, we reviewed it against things and it went through the proper mechanisms, but there was really no mechanism to ensure that the road could handle it, that the treatment was there, that the water was there, that they were allowing for open spaces. And having a regulation like this is absolutely invaluable to understand and set expectations and standards like Holden stated. Because if we don't have something of this nature, if it is identified that the community is interested in having this and we don't have something of this nature, they'll just fall into a use permit review process again, which is fine. The boards of adjustment can do an excellent job, but there's not any standards with that.
Yeah.
Versus coming to you guys with the rezoning first and then the development plan process and et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to kind of add that one of like, we had nothing, it just kind of had its little moment, but I didn't want to derail that.
And why not? So through research for the ordinance, we picked about 50 different nationwide municipalities, everybody being different. I will gladly report that the original version of the ordinance as it stood, staff likes to think that our standards for dimensional aspects such as lot sizes, density ratios, things of that nature, were pretty well stringent than most anybody we saw. In fact, some places that are very well known had no regulations whatsoever, like Jellystone down at Mammoth Cave and things. That was a fun, interesting conversation with those folks down there. But again, but all that being said, we can always do better. I think it's very important to understand local context for our ordinances when we're writing them. Even if we think our numbers are better, some of our practices can be better as well. Specifically, you'll see something in there. There was a lot of community concern with wastewater treatment, excuse me, and who's in charge of it, whatnot. We're kind of stepping out of the way and yielding that to the people that know more. The original ordinance was a little more cumbersome and nuts and bolts and things that we're just not equipped to enforce. So you'll see some simplified language in there as it speaks to the state of Kentucky, local health department, et cetera. And also, there was community interest in placing a bonding mechanism to ensure the feasibility and actual function of the system. However, through conversation with Mr. Krebs over there, bonds are not such a great thing in certain circumstances. However, through input from this think tank, I'll call it, we are researching avenues of not necessarily bonding it, but insuring it. It has been demonstrated through some research from the folks that have been helping us as community members that there are firms out there that are willing to insure septic systems. And so you'll see some language in there that states, I think specifically that from the outset that a system should be insured at 125% of its original install value to ensure that there's enough money in there to repair, replace in that near term. And that also, I believe that policy should be reviewed every 2 years and kept up to make sure that that's keeping up with the cost of inflation, things of that nature. Of course, the real nature of these places being that more than likely you're not going to encounter one on sewer, to Mr. Best's point. So you are going to have a lot of sewage treatment on site, so to speak, and whether that's in a permeable surface that is more than likely near some prime soils or waterways, or if it's impervious surface in northern parts of the county where we're looking at lagoons, et cetera. It's very important to have some good blanket language that not only yields the responsibility and jurisdiction to those that know what they're doing, but also that we can put restrictions in there to ensure that there is mechanism to protect the community financially, so that we don't have a situation where the county or the city has to step in and fix a big mistake that we just didn't have protections there for. I think that pretty well covers it. Yeah, okay, great. Mr. Murphy?
The third time he's got it.
Yeah, come on, man.
He's used to it.
Well, we got grave concerns over there, and I want to address to you the process we've come to on this. I think it needs to be discussed with you all. As you know, I was before you 2 years ago. We spent probably a year with you all working on that RV park ordinance. We flew our experts in, the Fuji system of sewers. We had a full discussion of that. That spread over months and months. I think it was almost an entire year. We spent, I should back up. I'm representing Dennis Anderson Communities, which is the principal owner of the proposed Kentucky Bluegrass Experience Resort. We worked on that for a year. After that, we filed a zone change. Actually, about a year ago now, we filed a zone change for the property out on Midway Road. We stirred up a lot of opposition by filing that. We ended up withdrawing that. Last we heard about anything. Then, apparently, for 6 months, there's been a task force working on revising and coming up with a new RV park ordinance of stakeholders. Well, who's the biggest stakeholder in this? Who has the biggest concern of this? It's the people who own that property out on Midway Road. When were we notified about this? And did we have a seat at the table? No. You know when we were notified? When I was sitting in your planning commissioner's workshop on Monday. 3 days ago is when, I'm his lawyer, I was there for somebody else. But when the biggest stakeholder in this process was never notified. They've been working 6 months to come up with a new ordinance. Some of the stakeholders are people who had opposed our location out there. It's ironic that when we do zoning here, the hallmark of good zoning is participation, public participation. When we filed our zone change application, we had to send letters to everybody within the 500-foot notification area. We had to post a sign, we had to put a big ad in the newspaper for us to do something on our property. We wanted to change something on our property. But when somebody comes in and wants to prevent you from doing something on your own property, not a phone call, not a letter, not an invitation to come to the task force. So we see it 3 days before it comes to you. Then we're being asked to have a public hearing in a month. They spent 6 months on this. We're going to have a public hearing in a month, prime vacation season. I can't even tell you all the problems we see with this, what they are. We have to send it to our experts, the guy in Maine who came in, the Fuji Systems coordinator. We have to talk about the streets. We had a lot of discussion before you about the entrance features, you know, so we wouldn't be backing up on the road and all that sort of thing. Andrew Hopewell, who's now a minority owner of Kentucky Bluegrass Experience Resort, studied these all over the country, went to well over 100 RV parks to study these things. Was he asked anything? No. Was he told about anything about it? No. I think if you're going to come up with a good order, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I called Dennis Anderson Tuesday after your meeting and said, they're taking away my property rights without even telling me on this. If you're going to do it right, you need to have everybody at the table, not just the ones who want to prevent it from ever coming to Scott County anywhere. We suspect that it's designed to prevent us from doing it in the location we want. I don't know that for sure because I haven't had a chance to go over it. We haven't had a chance to look at it. But for other people to study it for 6 months without the biggest stakeholder in the community, for 6 months, come back and want to have a hearing in a month, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's what good planning is all about on it. At the very least, we need to have some discussions, some more discussions before you all set it for a public hearing. I don't think you should set it for a hearing yet. I think we ought to have a chance to talk to the people who've been talking about this for the last 6 months and maybe point out to them if we see issues. I don't know if we'll see issues. I strongly suspect we will, but I don't know what they are. I'm not prepared to debate it today. But we simply need more time, and we need to have the people who have the greatest stake in this, the most to lose, to be, at least be talked to about it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, what was the length of the extension of the moratorium that they just adopted? Isn't that another 6 months?
No, it was limited. I believe it was 3 months.
Three additional
However,
months?
in conversations with fiscal court, they've been very flexible. We've been in constant communication with fiscal court along this path. Several of the magistrates have participated in these conversations, and so they're flexible and amicable to doing what is right for this process. I came to you and asked if it was, in line with the wants of this commission, if we could schedule that public hearing for a month. If it's inappropriate or we don't feel like that's ready, then that's exactly what I'll tell fiscal court, that we are not prepared to have a public hearing in a month. We want to get this right. It took a year the first time. I was hoping to take maybe a little less the second time around. But again, we want to make sure that the right stakeholders have had an opportunity to comment on this. And that flip side too is that all of the community gets to comment at that public hearing, both in support of or obviously against. And then that we can then change and modify this to fit this community's needs. So at this board's discretion, we will move forward with whatever the desire is.
Do we need to specify how long
Yeah.
you think, or just at this point say, go back and
let's
gather
get
more stakeholders?
more people involved, yeah.
And while we're doing that, I think we need to ask the fiscal court, since that last extension is now a month in.
Yeah.
We need more than 2 months.
Okay.
So they probably ought to hit that with the initial, say, 5 and give us the 6 that I thought we were getting anyway.
Okay.
Yes, but no question, Dick's right. We need to have everybody at the table, not just whoever, might be one side or the other.
For the record, though, I will say it was a good group of stakeholders. It was not cherry-picked for one side or the other, but obviously Mr. Anderson would have been a great addition to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so,
Great.
not next
Can I make a
month, ask for another 5 months or so.
Yes.
Yes, very
Should put
good.
it like towards the end of the year for the public hearing, right?
Okay.
I'm gonna make one more motion to adjourn.
You've been on fire tonight, woman. You've been on fire.